Greetings, Dhammananda, from Canada, from Shirley.
Greeting. Shirley and children.
Greetings. Very good to see you.
Yeah, I'm happy to see all of you. I'm in Vietnam now, and yeah, I returned to Vietnam from 9 months now, and teaching by in Hanoi.
And we'll touch.
Ayya T, can you hear me? Okay, I see you speaking, but I cannot hear you.
Yeah, we cannot hear Bhikkhuni Ayya T.
How about now?
Yes, now can.
Yes.
And here too?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh,
Ayya T
good.
as well.
Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dhammaya, Namo Sankhaya. Warm greetings to everyone from Dhammadharini Monastery in Northern California. It is wonderful to see all of your faces here. And just like to say welcome to everyone on behalf of our Dhammadharini Bhikkhunī Sangha here, my left and on my right, and also all of our luminaries who may be joining. Perhaps we have our monastics from Aranya Bodhi Awakening Forest Hermitage on the Sonoma Coast as well. So all venerable bhikkhunis, bhikshunis, seminaries, anagarikas, and all upasakeras, venerable bhikkhu sangha. Warm welcome to this program honoring the legacy of our late most venerable Ayya Khemā on her 100th birth anniversary.
Namo Buddhaya. My respects to all venerable monastics and greetings to all the Dhamma friends gathered here today.
We cannot make out what you're saying.
Sorry. Can you hear me
that's
now?
Better. Yes.
Good.
Okay. Yes. Namo Buddhaya. My respects to all the venerable monastics and greetings to all Dhamma friends gathered here. I'd like to welcome you to our event honoring the legacy of Ayya Khemā on the 100th anniversary of her birth. I am Bhikkhuni Kachayana, and I will be serving as moderator tonight. We'd like to first appreciate our host venue this evening, which is Dhammadharini Monastery in the San Francisco North Bay. And I'd like to briefly introduce Venerable Bhikkhuni Sopanateri, Ayya Sopana, who is the active Bhikkhuni teacher at Dhammadharini Monastery this Vasa. Her recent teachings from the Vasa time are available on the Dhammadharini Monastery YouTube channel, and we just want to greet her briefly and appreciate her. Can we spotlight her for a minute? Welcome, Ayya. We appreciate your being with us this evening.
Namo Buddhaya. I'm glad to be here tonight.
Thank you very much, Ayya. Next, I'd like to introduce our host for this evening, Venerable Bhikkhuni Ayya Tathālokā Mahateri. Ayya Tathālokā is the founding abbess and preceptor of Dhammadharini, and she's something of a Bhikkhuni historian or herstory. Ayya Khema ordained as a Bhikkhuni when Ayya Tathālokā was in her first year of monastic life, not yet a Bhikkhuni. And Ayya Khema passed away about 10 years later, just shortly before Ayya Tathālokā's higher ordination. Although they never met, Ayya Khema was an exemplar for Ayya Tathālokā in her own monastic life. And I'll let her take it from here and tell us more about this evening's program.
Thank you very much, Venerable Kajayana. And all to all the Venerable Sangha here. It's so nice to see all of you. Venerable Jigwang, Venerable Jampa Sedrun, Venerable Dhammananda, both Venerable Dhammanandas, and Jayanta and Susan Pembroke. I'm very glad to see you. Actually, my screen is no longer on gallery view, so I can't see any others anymore. You'll have to switch to gallery view to share again. But just warm greetings to everyone. And I'm so glad. I've just been really happy to be organizing and to be a part of offering this time together. Teach widely as Buddhist women teachers in Theravada Buddhism when I was a teenager. And that was just such an important and awesome example for me growing up in the Pacific Northwest here in the United States. And our lives have been intertwined in really blessed and supportive ways, like intersecting circles that are moving around one another with the shared heart and core of the Dhamma for so many years until now, until today, on Ayya's, 2 days after Ayya's 100th birth anniversary. And I look forward to hearing from all of you who are here, who have offered something to share something today, and to learn more about Ayya Khema's Bhikkhunī Sangha, Buddhism, mindfulness, vipassana, Jhana meditation. Really, I feel like our whole experience of what Buddhism is today. I'm interested in knowing your thoughts about this. And we're going to be hearing from a number of you who are here. And so I'd like to begin actually with Lee Brasington, if he's here with us. He has done a lot of work. Hello, Lee, I'm seeing you now. He's done a lot of work with, not only practice work in meditation and Dhamma with Ayya Khema's teaching and her heirs, like her children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren in Dhamma, but also with her bio. So I'd like to invite Lee to share with us. He published another book of Ayya Khema's teachings, I think just this last year and the last 2 years, and gave a great talk on YouTube for the Sati Center for Buddhist Studies on Ayya Khema's life and teaching, as well as on his website. I think our tech support is going to be sharing that in the chat in case you're interested. So I want to invite Lee to just give us a brief overview of Ayya Khema's life. And I'll say, Lee, we talked about you giving a brief secular bio and me giving a brief monastic bio. And I'm going to have to give the monastic bio later. It was requested, but I got busy with organizing things and I didn't get it done yet. So I hope to soon. And for now, your bio is what we're going to open up with, just to give us a review. Maybe some of us know all of this. Maybe for some of us, especially for our monastic community here and our next generation monastic community, it might be new to us, or we might not know everything. I feel sure probably all of us are going to be learning something from one another. today in this time together. From our monastic community for your outreach to us when we founded Dhammadharini 18 years ago, right in the beginning, giving us encouragement and support. And also 2 years ago, Dhammadharini for our 3-month-long winter retreat used Ayya Khema's retreat videos with the permission of Buddha House for the entire 3 months retreat time. So, she's become a very important teacher for us and for our monastic community, even, years after her passing away. So, and Lee offered support during that time. So thank you so much and welcome, Lee.
Thank you very much. It's fantastic to be here and to see so many people that are connected with Ayya Khema, all the venerables, friends I haven't seen in years. This is really wonderful. So Ayya Khema was born in Berlin in 1923 to a family. Her father was a Jewish banker. She was 10 years old when Hitler came to power. When she was 15 in 1938, she was on one of the Kindertransports, the children being sent out of Germany, the Jewish children being sent out of Germany, and she wound up in Scotland. Her parents managed to escape to Shanghai before the war broke out. And in 1941, she was able to join them by taking a Japanese freighter from the United Kingdom around Africa to India, where she couldn't disembark because she was a stateless person, and then on eventually to Shanghai. She actually enjoyed the first few years in Shanghai, but in 1944, the Japanese threw all Westerners in a concentration camp where her father died. While she was in China, she married, had a few kids. She was liberated by the Americans in 1945, but actually didn't get out of China to 1949, just before the Chinese communists arrived in Shanghai. She came to America. She actually worked as a teller in the Bank of America in Los Angeles for a while. She divorced and moved to Mexico to an organic farm and met her second husband. They married, and eventually she and her husband and her son, her daughter, I assume, was staying with the father, they got a posting to Pakistan. Her husband was an engineer of some sort. I've forgotten whether it was building a bridge or an aqueduct, something like that. So they lived in Pakistan at this construction site for a while. And then when the project was finished, they drove from Pakistan to London. This was in the 60s. This is before the hippies had started doing that. In fact, Ayya Khema was one of the ones blazing this trail. And after they had spent some time in London, they drove back to India. They had quite a number of adventures along the way. Ayya Khema has a wonderful autobiography entitled I Give You My Life. And it's a great read just as an adventure story, full of, nice nuggets of Dharma on every other page. After they left India, which is where Ayya Khema learned to meditate in the Hindu tradition, they settled on an organic farm in Queensland, Australia. One afternoon, one of her neighbors came to her and said, "Would you like to hear a talk by a Buddhist monk?" And Ayya Khema, before she was ever Ayya Khema, said, yes, that would be interesting. She went along and she said that she knew immediately she was home when she heard Venerable Khantipalo speak. And she began practicing Buddhist meditation. She said the Hindu meditation she'd been doing for, I think it was 6 years, she didn't really connect with it, but she was doing it. And as soon as she started the Buddhist meditation, yes, that made sense to her. She started going on retreat with Venerable Khantipalo, and then eventually began assisting him. It was during these retreats that she taught herself the jhanas. Nobody was teaching jhanas, certainly not publicly back in those days. And all she had were the translations from the early 20th century of the suttas and the very good translation from 1957 of the Visuddhimagga. But reading that, seeing the suttas appearing everywhere, she taught herself the jhanas. Once when she came back from a retreat, her son met her at the railway station with a note from her husband that basically said, "You're more interested in this meditation stuff than in me. I'm out of here." She said she was rather upset with him, but she also said that, yeah, he was correct. After that, she spent more time practicing and eventually made connections in Sri Lanka. At one point when she was there, she began inquiring around as to who was a jhana master. She wanted to know, was she doing it right? The word came that it was the venerable Jnanarama that she really needed to speak to. So she said to the lady she was staying with, "I need to go to the venerable Jnanarama's monastery." And they told her, "Oh, you can't go there. It's 2 days in a jeep, and then you got to walk in." And she says, "But you don't understand. I really need to go." "Well, you don't understand. You really can't go." "But I need to speak to the venerable Jnanarama." "Oh, if you just want to speak to him, he's coming to town for some medical treatment. He's staying at the monastery around the corner." And so they walked out of where they were staying to the closest monastery. She went in and she had an interview with the venerable Jnanarama, described her jhana experiences, and in the end asked, "Am I doing it right?" And he says, "Yes. And furthermore, you must teach these. They are in danger of becoming a lost art." And he put her to work teaching the nuns and the lay women. And she began teaching jhanas. At one point in Sri Lanka, they gave Ayya a monastery in a lake, and she set it up as a retreat center for Western women who wanted to come and practice for extended periods of time. I think the minimum stay was 3 months, something like that. And it was going quite well until the troubles in Sri Lanka, the Civil War, just made it not dangerous, but just too difficult. The infrastructure of the country had broken down, she said. You couldn't mail a letter. You couldn't take a bus someplace. At that point, her German students requested that she come back to Germany. Before that, she had encountered some Germans when she was teaching in Bali, and they invited her to come give a retreat in Germany. She hadn't been in Germany since 1938. And on the flight to Germany, she had to learn the German words for the Pali because she only knew the English translations of the Pali. And so she's on the plane looking up the Pali German translations. And she made quite a number of good connections there, and her students invited her to come back to Germany, and they founded Buddha House as a place for her to live and as a retreat center, and it's still a very strongly going concern these days. They had a celebration yesterday of Ayya's 100th. She also founded a monastery near there, and she continued teaching retreats. She taught retreats in Germany. She taught retreats in the United States. She would come visit her daughter who lives near San Diego and teach retreats then. She taught retreats in Australia. Her son was settled in Queensland, and she would teach retreats there. She also founded a retreat center in Australia. She was a really amazing person. And I haven't even talked about all the things she did as a nun. She got 10 precepts ordination in Sri Lanka because that was all that was available at that time. And later on, she went to the Chan Temple in LA and got fully ordained, and then went back to being a Theravada nun. She was perhaps the first or one of the very first fully ordained Theravada nuns in 1,000 years. She was not going to let anybody stand in the way of what she thought was needed to be done. She was the organizer of the first nuns conference and got the Dalai Lama to become the keynote speaker. She was truly amazing. I don't know how many thousands of students she had. She authorized a large number, perhaps maybe a dozen or so, to teach in her lineage. And she was a force of nature. She had touched so many lives in such a positive way. For some people, they say they broke the mold. There's nobody else like them. There was no mold for Ayya Khema. She was hand carved. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Really appreciate that.
Thank you. So our next section, now that we've had that overview of her life, we're going to hear in some more detail about particular periods of her life, starting next with the time in Australia at Wat Buddha Dharma around 1978.
So, Master Jigwang Sanim, Tathālokā in Korean is Yogwang, and Venerable Jigwang would be like Panyaloka, I think, in Pali. Venerable, I'm so glad that you can be joining us. Venerable Sahyangnim means my elder Dhamma sister. It's wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for joining us at this time. And I want to invite you to share about, well, you knew Ayya Khema for so many years. More than 20 years, I think. From the early days in Australia through till the time that she passed away. And so I'd like to invite you to speak about those early days, especially now, the time of the founding of Wat Buddha Dharma and what that was like back then, and the time that you've known her. And I'd also like to invite Ayya Nirodha, if she's here with us on from Santi Forest Monastery. Ayya Nirodha, if you have anything that you'd like to add about this time, I know you were present and very much a part of this then. Hello, Ayya Nirodha. Very nice to see you. That looks like the hall upstairs at Santi, and maybe Ayya Karunika next to you there. Thank you very much, Ayya Karunika. Nice to see you. Tech support at Santi Forest Monastery in Australia. Ayya, it's wonderful to see you again. How fantastic to have Venerable Jigwang and you together with us today. So warm welcome, Venerable Jigwang, and Ayya Nirodha. You're warmly invited to add anything that seems important and good to add.
So I do have Ayya
Tathālokā.
안녕하세요. I do have a little PowerPoint with some of the old photos, if that's shareable. I don't know.
Yes, please check. Do you see a share screen button?
I do see the share screen button. Oh, there we go. Okay. Now, what do I have to do here? Maybe I have to do something else I haven't done.
Yeah, so click share screen and then choose the application that you have the slideshow open with. Do you know which one that is?
Yes, but you can't see that, can you? Share.
Well, first there we go. Now it says
it's coming now.
Yes, it is now sharing. So please continue.
Wonderful. So thank you very much, Ayya Tathālokā, and those we know, and for the wonderful sharing we've just had of her life. I'll just share a few other things, but I thought to show some pictures because they are quite important. I will start here, actually, because this is when Ayya Khema to begin with, this is just with Ayya Khema and Kantipala when they first planted the Bodhi tree. It's a very beautiful big tree now. And Ayya was an anagarika at that time with Prakapala. And she actually did do an ordination, took her first ordination with him, and then repeated that again as a seminary in Sri Lanka. But first, to start with, I met Ayya Khema in 1977. We met in northern New South Wales. She was with Kantipalo and as an assistant teacher, and she would offer Metta classes of Metta, and talk about Metta. And So she was a teacher along with Prakantipalo at that time. And we spent a month together there in retreat. And then I was invited to come and explore the opportunity to perhaps purchase a property for the purpose of making a monastery. And Kantipalo had seen the land. Ayya at that time, who was Ilse Lederman at that time, had not. And so the three of us went to have a look at the land. We were staying at what Buddharangsi in Sydney together for a few months. And we went to have a look at the land, and Kantipalo was very keen on this, purchasing this property. And Ilse at that time had been as she had separated from her husband Yurt, had received quite a substantial payout with the property. And we went and tidied the property up and sold the property, and that funded this Wat Buddha Dhamma. She was a little bit concerned. It was a bit far away from Sydney, but it was indeed such an extraordinary piece of land. And so the three of us went out and we began to work. I was just the attendant and very much hands-on with the property and helped to build her kuti. So I'll just come down here. The ordination was a little bit later, but this is Ayya in her kuti. I helped another man who had some building skills. He had some issues, but together we built this little kuti for her, and it served her very well for many, many years, and only burnt down a few years ago when they had the big fires go through Wat Buddha Dhamma. But for many years, I lived here both as Ilse with myself, and I had for various other reasons, had decided to go and study in Korea. That's a different story, but I had decided to become a Korean son or Zen Buddhist nun. And I, about 6 or 8 months later, went to Sri Lanka to ordain. So she became Ayya Khema. This is now, I'm bringing this picture up because we have Venerable Naroda as a young Elizabeth in the background. You might be able to share more about what was happening there. I saw that. I thought, oh, how interesting. There's a Venerable Naroda in her former life. So when I went to Korea and Ayya went to Sri Lanka, had I stayed a little longer, I may have followed her to Sri Lanka. But I had a growing interest in the Korean way of Zen. And we remained in very close communication. We wrote back and forth. And at some point, she did come to Korea. She was helping her daughter they wanted to adopt a little girl, and I helped in that cause. I found a little girl who turned out to be an extraordinary student and a wonderful granddaughter for Ayya Khema. But I'll go back a little bit to the early days at the Wat. At Wat Buddha Dhamma, it was very rudimentary. I mean, there was a house, but there was a lot of work to be done. We built a few of us built the first sala. Kantipalo also worked very hard. That later became the dormitory. I cut every timber. We had a forest there, and I cut every timber on for that property, and we built Prakantipalo's kuti. I built a little platform and stairs in a cave, and that was my little kuti. So I was, being a younger student, and also, you know, someone who had some energy and capability. I was often the cook. I transported them to many places to teach. So I was attendant to Ayya, and Prakantipalo had various young men attend him. And at the time, many were going off to ordain in Thailand, and two women went off to ordain, but the women didn't come back so well, so healthy. And that was one of my thoughts about going to study in Thailand over going to Korea. Now, Ayya, from when I first met her, was an extraordinary teacher, as has been shared. And later I did study with her the jhanas, and she taught me personally in that way. She invited me back on a number of important occasions, and I came back to be her attendant when she was giving one of her last retreats. It wasn't the last, but she had developed breast cancer at this stage. And so I went back to attend and to be there as a friend. And I knew this was probably not going to work well because she hadn't really had it seen to medically. But we remained very, very much in communication. But that was the last time I actually saw Ayya Khema. However, she had continued to return. Oh no, it wasn't the last time, I apologize. She continued to return, I think, every year to teach at the Wat. And she invited me back in 1991 to be with her again, because there was an issue around Prakantipalo had disrobed and become Lawrence Mills. And the issue was what would happen and who would continue to run the Wat. So she asked me to come and be there in support of her. She was very much for it continuing as a monastery. It took many years actually for it to stabilize as a monastery, and that's really only in the last 10 years that Bhante Kemavaro has been there and developed it again. But I was asked for a short time if I would consider to make a nunnery there, and I looked into that possibility, but it wasn't going to happen perhaps in the way that we thought it might. But I have, you know, many people will talk about different things, but I have great respect and indebted to her with her dedication to her practice. We ordained together as Bhikkhuni. I was invited by a number of nuns in the Tibetan tradition. Venerable Lekshya Somo and Venerable Sedrin was there. So I said to Ayya, we should go and ordain as Bhikkhuni together. I had already had an ordination in Korea, which didn't have the education behind it and the opportunity of learning as we did at Shilai Temple. So we did that together. There were many opportunities for us to meet and participate, and for me to study with her. So I would like to offer my indebted respect again to her and to all of those that she has influenced. She did, both her and Prakantipalo really inspired a full generation, if not more, of people who became monks and nuns, who became dedicated teachers. Many of them are still teaching, and many have centers throughout the world. So her contribution to the Dharma is matched by really no other that I know of a Western Buddhist nun. So thank you, Ayya Tathālokā, for allowing me to share a few words. I'll just see here, I have another picture of her. This is when she was in Sri Lanka at her temple that she had there. So groups would come, they would wear white. And out of that, there were quite a number who did ordain. Achan Viryananda is the nun who became a Bhikkhuni under Ajahn Brahm, and was the abbess of Dhammasara in West Australia. This was at the ordination. We were together. That is me. We're always sort of together in various photos, I noticed. This is just a few of what I have, but I couldn't find them all. Again, these were all the Western participants. We did have, you can see here, the 5 Bhikkhuni from the 5, well, they became Bhikkhuni from Sri Lanka at the back. So that was extraordinary that they could ordain in her Buddha house. She built a beautiful stupa. This was our last meeting together, and with Liz Oski at her house at that time. And when she came to Korea, we had that time together in the late 80s. So thank you, everybody, and thank you for allowing me to say a few words, and I look forward to hearing more.
감사합니다, 사형님. Thank you very much, Venerable Jigwang Sanim. Ayya Nirodha, do you have anything that you would like to add at this time?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for this wonderful program, and congratulations to Venerable Jigwang Sanim, who more or less has covered very beautifully the main points of Venerable Ayya Khema's life. And I also am indebted to Venerable Ayya Khema. I met her at the first retreat at Wat Buddha Dhamma, which she had just started. And then we traveled sometimes together, and I have many stories to tell. For example, at one point, she was not well. She was staying with me in Sydney. So I took her to my local doctor, who put her on an EGC machine. And then he came out and said to me, "Don't ever do that to me again." I said, "What did I do, doctor?" While Ayya Khema was on the machine, she went into deep samadhi and everything went flat.
Oh. You froze in a moment.
So he had with his one respect to the hermitage in the little boat going back to the mainland, and Ayya Khema said, "No, the monks have it so easy. They've got everything, beautiful island, beautiful support. We nuns have nothing." So I see in the distance a large sandy island, and I said to Venerable Ayya Khema, there is your nuns' island. And I thought them making a joke, but there was no joke ever with Ayya Khema. She actually went about to acquire it.
Ayya, you're breaking up.
Yes, I want to first of all remember her with much gratitude and honor and respect, and also that she actually also emphasized the Jhana practice, because we were in a wave of Vipassana only without the foundation of deeper concentration. So that is another one of her great achievements. Thank you very much, and my respect to everyone again. Sadhu.
Sadhu Anumodami. For all our Dhammadharini monastic community here and others who might not know, then Venerable Jigwang, as I said earlier, is my elder Dhamma sister, because we have the same Venerable Elder Bhikkhuni mentor in South Korea. And she connected with our Venerable Bhikkhuni mentor years before I did, which is why we say that she's my elder Dhamma sister. And amazingly, how this works in terms of the Sangha lineage, then later on, I was invited to serve as the Bhikkhuni preceptor for the first time in my life, after 13 years as a Bhikkhuni, for the first 4 Bhikkhunis at Dhammasara, Nuns Monastery in Western Australia. And Ayya Nirodha was one of those 4. So she's one of the first 4 brave ones to go ahead in Australia. Ayya Nirodha, you had mentioned to me before that there was also some connection between Santi Forest Monastery, where you are now, and Ayya Khema. What's that connection?
The connection is, of course, part of the practice. Yes, number 1. Number 2, there's some sort of connection still with Wat Buddha Dhamma, even though Wat Buddha Dhamma has undergone many changes. But I think Ayya Khema's, the inheritance from Ayya Khema to all of us, especially to the Bhikkhunis, is still somehow felt. You cannot always just say it's always logical. She has done so much and re-established so much that we still feel the benefits of her blessing and of her life. So I think Ayya Khema is certainly not forgotten. People are reading the books, but more than that, we need to see that the so-called impossible, the enlightenment for women not possible, as you know, in some quarters, that it actually has been proven wrong. And she was one of the great leaders of our present times.
Did she say it?
Hmm?
Did she say it?
Thank you very much, Ayya. You had shown
Yes,
me a
she's
picture of Ayya Khemā.
yeah. Yeah, okay, but that's not what to say. But anyway, enough for now. Thank you, Sadhu.
Thank you, Anumodhana Sadhu, Sadhu, Sadhu. Appreciating both of you. And maybe we'll have a chance to hear more from you later on in another time in another section. Sahyangnim, Jigwangsunim, thank you very much. Ayya Nirodha, thank you.
Anumodana to our venerable speakers just now. In our next section, we'll be moving to Sri Lanka, hearing about Ayya Khema's time at Parapadua Nuns Island there.
Yes, Parapadua. So for this portion, we actually have a video offering from Venerable Bhante Samadhi Kusala, who might be better known as Tamaruan. And he knew Ayya Khema when he was just a young one in Sri Lanka, and his parents were very strong supporters of Ayya Khema's during her early time in Sri Lanka and the Parapadua Nuns Island time. So Venerable Samadhi Kusala Tamaruan is in silent retreat right now, but offered a short video reflection for us. So I'd like to welcome tech support to share that with us now.
So the greatest legacy that Ayya Khema has left behind is obvious in this group. The Bhikkhunis and the Samaneris and all the students who call Ayya Khema as their teacher. So this is the legacy that she has left behind. And she's actively did something. So today there are so many women who has taken into ordination, and they look at Ayya Khema as a power of strength. I always give 2 books to females, and I say you must read them because I strongly believe in these 2 women, and they are the leaders and they are the role models. And one is the life of Deepama, who's also a practitioner and a meditation teacher. The other one is Ayya Khema. Read Ayya Khema's life story, the book, and learn. If she can go through all that, and if she can succeed in life, if she can leave a legacy behind, so can every one of you. So she gives us strength to face the day. She gives us strength, everyone the strength to lead a better life, gives strength to make our spiritual life better. So these are great things Ayya Khema has done. So if you look in this way, you can find great solace in being a student of Ayya Khema. And one of the stories is one thing that I learned from Ayya Khema. Now, being a teacher, I am known to be very direct. And one of my students in Netherlands when I was traveling to teach there, she made this brochure to introduce to people, to get people to come into the retreat. And it said, there was this funny line when I read that, and it read, this teacher is so and so, so and so, and she has said, no nonsense teacher. They call me no nonsense teacher. And I started wondering, hey, I'm very direct. They call me I'm no nonsense teacher. Where did I get this attribute? And I realized that I have learned that from Ayya Khema. She's very direct, and this attribute I have really got into my teaching as well. So you have to see, if Ayya Khema is your teacher, what have you taken from her? That's what makes you a student. And if you have lived by that, that's what makes it happen. Little story that happened when I was living in Kandy, round the lake. Our house was at the end of the lake, and Ayya Khema was living there in the front room, and all her students, people come to meet Ayya Khema. And one day I was staying in the living room, and Ayya Khema's room was just ahead of me, and some of these ladies from Kandy, very aristocratic Kandian ladies, they came wearing their traditional osaris, and they came and they wanted to do a meditation class. So about 5-6 ladies went into this little room and sat inside. They closed the door, and they went, and then you could hear Ayya Khema talking. I was hearing her talking. And all of a sudden, the door flung open, and these ladies were very angrily marching out with their saris flying in the air, very angry. And they didn't even stay in the living room. They walked away and they went away. And then thereafter, Ayya Khema came out. My foster father asked, Ayya Khema, what happened? Why did they leave? So everything calmed down, and she waited for a while, and then she said, well, Bertie, I told them that don't pretend to be meditators and don't pretend to be spiritual. Take a good look at yourself. Before you start meditating, imagine your children dead in coffins. If you can't imagine that, you should not practice. Don't kid yourself. So she has said that, and this was too much for these mothers, and it was too much to take. They marched out. But it shows something, that is, you don't do things to please people. You don't do things to make a career out of meditation. Make yourself famous. Do things. No, Ayya Khema was not. She had a journey, and she just went through. And that's the hallmark of success in spirituality. Not to depend on anything personal, and to let go. And she did that. And there was no fear in her because of this. And that's how she achieved. One little thing I had to say. Ayya Khema was the very first teacher who came and who said, you should be a meditation teacher. I had many teachers, but she was the only one who said, for the very first time, others were later said, but she was the very first one who said, you must be a meditation teacher. This happened when I was very not interested in meditation. I was at that time a teenager, I think around 16, somewhere there. And I was more interested in relationships and romance and things like that. And Ayya Khema was not interested in hearing all my stories relating to those. But one day she said, I'm going to this girls' school nearby, and they have asked me to give a talk. And you being a teenager, you must be knowing what these girls would like to hear. What do you think I should talk? And then I said, without thinking much, I said, maybe you should talk about meditation and how they can use this to concentrate so that they can study better. And I said that, and then she looked at me surprised and looked for a long time. She went into her room, and then she came back and she said, you should stop all this silly business of relationships. You are not made for this. You are not born for this. You are born to be a teacher. And you become a teacher. And with Ayya Khema, you know, when you say something, you can't say something back. And she said, you become a teacher. And next day she brought this whole bag of her talks and she emptied it in front of me. And she said, these are talks of mine. Now you go and listen to all these things and you become a meditation teacher, Dhamma teacher. Don't do these other things. And she went away. And I value that so much now. But, you know, being a teenager at that time, I did something very blasphemous. I recorded all music into those those talks. It is so, I did those things without knowing at that time. But today I value that so much. And learn someone seeing the capacity of me, and someone like Ayya Khema saying that I should be. So she might have seen something in me with that answer. And therefore, she is a very strong influence in my life. And I'm sure she is in your lives as well. May she attain Nibbana. May you all be well.
Sadhu. Thanks very much to Venerable Samadhi Kusalo Tamaruan. Many of you might have read about him in Venerable Bhikkhu Analayo's book, Rebirth in Early Buddhism, or if you saw any of the talks or videos related to that. Or you might have heard tapes. We used to have the cassette tapes that we were passing around of his chanting from when he was a very young child as a savant, chanting the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta in an ancient tune. So thank you very much to Venerable Samadhi Kusalo. We know him from his time as a layman in Australia, and then as a novice at the Bhavana Society, training with Banteji, and now as a senior bhikkhu and the leader of and teacher of the Nirodha Trust, and knowing Ayya Khema since young childhood. So I'd now like to invite our good friend from Sri Lanka, Mrs. Dayadri Devendra. Oh, can you check? See if she's under the name Soma Siri Devendra. So I'm going to be just sharing with you, and if we find her here, then she'd just like to say hello, and we have a photo from her also to share. So we'll ask tech support if they would be willing to share the photo that Dayadri shared with us. And I just want to really appreciate Dayadri and the whole group of friends in Sri Lanka who have so kindly offered like so much support for the Ajahn Brahm Society of Sri Lanka, our Dhamma Khema Trust, and my own visits to Sri Lanka, pilgrimage and medical treatment, and time of Dhamma sharing with the dedicated Dhamma friends there. This is Dayadri's own picture, which is from, well, I'll share with you what she shared. She says, I met and participated in Ayya Khema's meditation programs held into the Dhamma. I was aware of the inspiration she gave Bhikkhuni Kusuma. I was also present at the inauguration of the Parapudawa Nuns Island. I have a photograph of the event where Ajahn Vayama is also shown as an anagarika. I think we're seeing Ajahn Vayama there in the left with folded palms and Anjali in white. And then we're also seeing Ayya Khema second from right. And this is the inauguration of the Parapudawa Nuns Island. Photos shared by Dayadri and Somasiri Devendra. So thanks to them for that and for being good Dhamma friends. I'd now like to also share a message from Madam Ranjani De Silva, who is the President Emeritus of Sakyadhita International, and also the President Emeritus of Sakyadhita Sri Lanka. And she is on retreat right now at Ajahn Brahm's Monastery, Bodhinyana Monastery in Perth, Western Australia. And so she's not joining on the Zoom, but she shared this message. This is from Ranjani. She says, "Thank you so much for your invitation to participate on this special occasion, honoring our dear Ayya Khema on her 100th birthday, who passed away on 2nd November 1997. I'm at Bodhinyana Monastery in Perth on retreat for Vasa 3 months. No access to internet, unable to join the Zoom. I met Ayya Khema in early 1980s when she became a nun in Sri Lanka. My first 10-day retreat was with her in 1984 in Kandy. She opened her Nuns Island in 1985, and since then I attended many retreats with her at Nuns Island. Also with Ajahn Ayya Wayama in White. Once I organized a 2-day retreat in my house and she stayed with me. I got close to her. How fortunate I was. It was Ayya Khema coming from the West to remind us how to help the nuns. No one ever told us that before. We as Sri Lankans always respected the monks and never realized that bhikkhunis existed. It was my fortune she invited me to join the 1987 conference in Bodh Gaya, where we formed the Sakyadhita Association. She called my name and told that I should help the nuns in Sri Lanka. Yes, I was already inspired listening to the history of Sri Lankan Arahat Teris of Sri Lanka, from Arahat Sanghamitta up to 10th century AD. It was Ayya Khema who inspired me to do whatever I've done to help the nuns. And finally, to revive the church, who had the vision and encouraged me to achieve whatever I have. Lastly, she gave me a card. We should have a screen share here. Hopefully, inviting the screen share. Lastly, she gave me a card. May you walk in the sunshine for helping the nuns. When I received it, she has already passed away on 2nd November 1997. Eternal peace for Ayya Khema. Also, one more memory for me is that I saw her last in 1991 October in Thailand at the second conference. That's Sakyadhita International Conference. On the last day, I got up and said, I invite you to hold the next conference in Sri Lanka. Can you share the book, the first slide of Walking in the Sunshine of the Bhikkhunis again? Matthew? On the last day, I got up and she was so delighted and said, you can do it. I will help. And I did it with her blessings. This was the dawn of a new era in the life of nuns. With gratitude and respect, Ranjani De Silva. And this is her recently published biography, which was researched and published by Ayya Suvira, Venerable Suvira Bhikkhuni, at the Uppalawanarama in Sydney, Australia, Walking in the Sunshine of the Bhikkhunis. And so that comes from Ayya Khema's last message to Madam Ranjani. Thank you very much. Do we have Ajahn Nisarano with us? Welcome, Ajahn. Very nice to see you.
Hello.
Are you on with us from Australia also?
Yes, that's right. I'm coming from Newbury Buddhist Monastery in Victoria, Australia.
Oh, wonderful. So Newbury Buddhist Monastery is, I think, the first dual Sangha, Bhikkhuni Sangha, monastery in the Theravada tradition in the West in contemporary times. And I know Ajahn Nisarano from a few years ago in Sri Lanka. We know each other just a little bit, and also from his teachings in Sri Lanka and having so many mutual friends there and also in Australia. Welcome, Ajahn. We look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ayya. And wonderful to see a gathering like this to remember Ayya Khema and to pay respects by remembering her. And I think of what Ayya has given all of us, all of her students over the years. And I just think, wow, this is so much. And for myself, and I'm sure for many of you, it brings up immense gratitude for what we have received. And this huge thank you, Ayya. And I often, every morning, I pay respects to my teachers when I start the day. And Ayya is one that I always pay respects to every morning, just to remember the debt of gratitude that I have. You know, it's not a debt in the sense, it's a great uplifting because of that. And that feeling of being so lucky that I had that opportunity, and so many of you had that opportunity, realizing that impermanence is with us all the time. And now here we are, you know, remembering Ayya's 100th birth anniversary. Amazing. And of course, because of her presence, because of her teaching, it gives huge inspiration. I think she gave to myself, to so many people, an encouragement that we can practice this path. We can develop these deep meditations, the jhanas. And I remember one story, you know, talking of inspiration. I was at a retreat with Ayya. I knew Ayya from late 1993 to the end of her life, the 2nd of November, 1997. I remember that day very well. And I remember at this retreat, I said to Ayya, well, I feel a bit flat. You know, I feel like I need inspiration. And she said to me, you have to inspire yourself. And of course, this is perfect advice for all of us as practitioners. We have to inspire ourselves. And because of that inspiration, it really gives us this increased faith or confidence in the Dhamma that this Dhamma works, this meditation, the development of meditation gives us the faith and confidence. Yes, we can do it. And we can experience deeper meditation, that it can be done. And she was a very important influence in my becoming a monk too. I had that interest and she really encouraged it. We had a correspondence over the years. And I was always very impressed. As many of you will remember, Ayya Khema was correspondent par excellence. She will always put such effort into it. You receive these, not handwritten, hand-typed, you know, when they had typewriters, typewriting machines, and always a little detail like a picture, a very nice, appropriate picture on the card as well. All that, and she had such a busy life. So she was advising me on things like with the name I should have and all that sort of thing, which didn't turn out to be the name that I finally took. And she gave me more confidence and strength to ordain, to live the monastic life. And also, I remember being in touch with her about Dhammasara, before it actually began, when I was mentioning to Ayya, they were looking at some small properties, you know, maybe 20 acres, 50 acres, that'd be good, wouldn't it? And I got the feeling Ayya was thinking, this is through the correspondence, not enough. And very interestingly, of course, what happened, and this happened after she passed away, Dhammasara is 583 acres, as I remember. So I think she would have been very, very pleased at such a gesture of support for women ordaining, not just a token, you know, if you have 20 acres or 30 acres, maybe you could call that a token, good anyway, but such a big support. And of course, I think Ayya affected all her students in so many ways, but I think for me, you know, it just changed the view of life in a very, very big way, and connected me with the Dhamma. And of course, I was always touched, as most of you will know from knowing Ayya, her kindness and her compassion, and all that very practical advice, very pragmatic person, and very solid person. I think everybody would say that for sure. And so, well, this was very helpful in looking at life in a different way. And one of the biggest things for me was really two things, really, and I just mentioned them before I finish off, is first of all, just teaching the jhanas. When I heard the jhanas, when I heard her teaching, which is one of the first, she was one of the first teachers to teach it. When I heard it, my mind said, yes, this is the path, this is the way, just as the Buddha mentions in the suttas. And it points to the importance of the mind and these incredible experiences of the mind in meditation that give strength, power, and purity to the mind. And this just resonated so much with me. And I know the meditation retreats that I did with her at that stage were the deepest meditations I'd ever experienced. And that really encouraged me, really gave me confidence in this path of Dhamma, in myself, and the encouragement that Ayya Khema gave all of us, just to see the power of the mind, to see the beauty of the mind, just extraordinary. And of course, one of the things that I think encourages me to this day is that she said, this is a natural way for the mind to go, given the right conditions. Given the right conditions, the mind will go into these deep states of samadhi, these jhanas, these deep meditations. The other thing that for me was major, and I think for most of her students, particularly those coming from the West, was her teachings on metta, on loving kindness or unconditional love. They were so, so important. And I think sometimes we don't recognize the connection that those meditations made it possible for many people to reduce a lot of the hindrances, particularly this ill will that is very common in the West, this towards ourselves, you know, this feeling of self-hate, or we don't recognize it because we're so used to it. But when I practiced Ayya Khema's beautiful and innovative guided meditation, I found them so wonderful. And I always remember Ayya saying, please, even if you're not doing a metta meditation, do a few minutes. So useful, because what it does, it allows the mind to go deep, because the hindrances, the pancha nivarana, are out of the way to some extent. And so those experiences were very, very wonderful experiences. So I'd like to finish there with just talking about how Ayya Khema affected my life, and perhaps other students of Ayya Khema's too. And thank you, Ayya, for this opportunity, Ayya Tathālokā, and everybody for sharing. I'm learning so much. So sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Anumodami. Thank you very much, Ajahn.
Yeah.
And now we would like to invite, if she's here with us, Lucinda.
Excuse me, Ayya T. Would you like us to play the Nuns Island video first?
Oh, I see. Let's see. Let's check in with Lucinda. Shall we have a brief Nuns Island video that was shared by Ajahn Nisarno. Shall we play that first, or would that be good to play after you've talked?
Let's play it now.
Okay.
That's good. All right.
everybody can meditate. It's a matter of time. If you can love sitting down to meditate without any expectations, just doing it, then you've already got at least halfway to concentration.
Oh, lovely. Sounded.
Well, thank you, Ajahn Nisarano, for sharing that video. And I would like to welcome Lucinda, who is among those who are like the Dhamma Mamas here in California when I was a young person, and still. So welcome. I understand that you will be sharing with us something about what it was like to be with Ayya Khema at the Parapudua Nuns Island, and whatever you'd like to share. Welcome.
Thank you. Well, that was very emotional, seeing her right there where I too was. So one of the introductory words that I heard from Venerable Ayya was, if you have come here for meditation, you've come to the wrong place. I just traveled halfway around the world to meditate with Ayya Khema. She said, this place is for renunciation. So it was all about renunciation. So having finished my PhD, which included Buddhist studies, I rewarded myself by entering the Buddhist nunnery and studying with Venerable Ayya Khema under the tutelage of her. I met her in late fall in 1984 at the San Francisco Zen Center, which she was giving a talk and, quite frankly, recruiting women to come to Parapadua. So she showed pictures of the island. And just as I have many times in my life, I immediately decided I am going there on the nose. This is where I'm going when I finish my PhD. In the spring of 1985, I put all my belongings in storage and headed out to Sri Lanka. It was an international women's community. While I was there, women heralded from Germany, Switzerland, the Netherlands, Canada, Australia, the United States, and Sri Lanka. The medium of instruction was English. That was my cup of tea. Ayya Khema had been, as been mentioned already, been offering teachings to the Sri Lankan people for a number of years, some of whom were quite wealthy and very high up in the government. Impressed with her, a wealthy donor set her up with a small island in a small lake to develop the nunnery. Ratgama was the name of the lake, Parapadua, the name of the island. It was Ayya's intent to recreate monastic life as it was lived at the time of the Buddha. There were some adjustments to allow for the fact that she didn't want to tax the surrounding villages. There were 4 villages surrounding, many of which were poor. And so she did not want to tax them by providing us with daily alms. We woke up at 3:30, going to cover the schedule of what we did. First of all, there was no room at the inn when I first came. So there were 2 cloths hanging. I was on the balcony, of course, with no high and luxurious bed. We had cork mattresses that were covered with muslin, and sometimes the cork would poke through us. There was no electricity, so we had our kerosene lanterns. And once a week, so 3:30 we'd get up, 4 o'clock was meditation, and the practice period was 2 hours long. So we would chant for half an hour and sit in meditation for an hour and a half. Then we'd have breakfast. Then there was a work period. And then after that, we had sutta study. And then we took our meal. Then we had Vinaya, study of the Vinaya. And then, of course, we took our meal before 12 noon. There were 8 precept nuns and 10 precept nuns. And the 10 precept nuns had made a 3-year commitment to be there, which of course they couldn't finish out because it had to close before they finished out. But I was there with a number of the women that we just saw a couple of slides ago. Then we would have a little bit of free time, but there was really no such thing as free time. We washed our clothes by hand at the washing well, and then there was watering of the plants to be done. And then we had our tea and jaggery, which is just a very sweet kind of molasses tasting sugar if we wanted it, for tea time around 4 o'clock. And then we had from 6 to 8 was the second practice period, followed by a Dhamma talk by Ayya. Once a week, we went on alms rounds to the villages. We had a rowboat when I was there. Later, nuns, somebody donated a motor, so they had a motorboat. But we would row the boat over and take off our shoes and go barefoot, single file into the village. And the people from the village would come out and bow to us and put the food. I, of course, was at the head of the line, and then the 10 precept nuns, and then some of the Anagarikas. They would put the food in Ayya's bowl, and then we would go and take it out and carry it in big plastic shopping bags. And then we'd come back to the Dhanasala. Well, the first time I went, it was very, very demanding. I'd heard that it was very demanding, very hot. I'm a tenderfoot. I have never gone barefoot in my life. And so here we were going barefoot. I scalded my feet. It was very challenging. And here were these people coming out. And some of these people, they were giving us their day's food. The food that they had prepared for their family for the whole day, they were giving it to us. So when we got back, I went back behind my little curtain instead of, I went to the Dhanasala, offered the food, and then I went back to my little curtain and I burst into tears. I thought, I've come halfway around the world. I am privileged. I could come halfway around the world to be here, and you're giving me your day's food. And so, oops, there were 2 feet on the other side of the curtain, and I recognized those feet. They were Ayya's feet. And you don't really want to be bursting into tears with Ayya Khema. So anyway, my middle name is Tree Light. So she said, Tree Light, come out here. I was like, okay, all right, here I come. And she said, you need to change your attitude right now. I said, okay. And she said, you have the wrong attitude. These people are so grateful. They are so grateful that you've come halfway around the world, that you honor. They are not able to come and take the robes, but you are. And so, okay. So I decided to go talk to the Sri Lankan nun, because going on Pindapat, that was her favorite. She loved going on Pindapat. So I went and talked to her. I said, what is it, Dhammadina, that you like about Pindapat? And she said, I get to be with my people. It was a little bit strange for her to be with all these Western women, right? So that was very, very interesting. On Sundays, people would come to the island and offer dana. Ayya had to limit the amount of people that would come, because 30, 40 people would come and we just couldn't sustain it. So she limited the number to 10 people to come. One of her most adamant teachings was that of developing security, inner security. The name that she was given, Khema, means security. Finding security within, not looking in samsara to find lasting happiness. That is a losing battle. What do we find there? Endless disappointment, endless dukkha. She hammered that in daily. Drop the wanting was one of her many favorite teachings. She said, our desires are like hot potatoes. So if somebody threw us a hot potato, Would we grab onto it? Would we hold really tightly onto it and say, where did this hot potato come from? You know, why did somebody, who threw this at me? She would say, no, we would not do that. Simply drop it. Drop the hot potato. As you can tell, that has stayed with me since 1985. In the majority of my training, which I had been in training for 18 years prior to arriving on Nuns Island, I had been studying, attending classes, weekend retreats, and 2 annual 10-day retreats. I was accustomed to training in extended periods of silence. I'm very much at home in silence. Monastic living was quite an adjustment. We had 1 half day of silence a week. Oh my goodness. Renounce attachment to silence. On full moon, we stayed up all night chanting. We were able to sleep for 2 hours after breakfast and then continue with our daily routine. Renounce sleep. Who needs it? No solid food after 12 noon. Renounce food. Never before had I learned from a teacher who taught directly from the suttas. I had a photographic memory. She didn't just plow through the suttas on her own. She practiced and she applied them as she went along on her own with her study. And as many of you know, she customarily would pick a sutta, a specific sutta for the duration of a retreat. And we were there for longer, but she would read a paragraph, maybe 2. And then she would give an hour-long exegesis on that one paragraph. I mean, what a feast, what a treat. Her Dhamma talks in the evenings were quite often tailored around teachings related to situations that were going on in the community. That was really new. Even on our 10-day retreats, the Dhamma talks didn't address certain things that were arising in the community. It was all about community living monastically in community. So I recall once listening to a talk and realizing that she was drawing on something that I had explored with her in my interview that day, without ever mentioning my name, without alluding to me in any way. Another gem from this experience, in interviews, receiving specific instructions of what to do in my practice. Then I'd go away, I would practice the instruction. Then when I was ready, I would sign up for another interview. And she would say, good, yes, you have done that. Here's the next step. And then I would go off to do that. Or she would say, no, you have not gone deep enough. You need to penetrate this more deeply and have a deeper understanding. What a gift that was, to have that in-depth, immediate, practical, specific guidance. I will end with a story of one of my most valuable lessons among many. And this happened fairly early on. Just let me begin by saying my job was to transcribe Ayya's Dhamma talks. And I went there all prepared from all these Zen stories and everything. I thought I was going to be given the worst possible thing for me to do. So I was bracing myself. Oh, no. Ayya is very pragmatic, as was mentioned, very practical. She valued efficiency. So she would pair up a nun with their talents, with what they were good at. Well, I just got my PhD, so I got to transcribe her Dhamma talks. It was Dhamma squared. It was double Dhamma. I was in heaven. I couldn't believe it. So I had my little headphones on my shaved head, and I had my brother typewriter. It wasn't mine, but I had the brother typewriter, and I had the battery operated cassettes, and I would sit there and do the transcription during the work period. Ayya gave me free rein. Free rein. I couldn't believe it. It was free rein wasn't really kind of the ethos of the nunnery, but she said, look, English is your first language. It's not my first language. So if you can improve upon what I'm trying to say, feel free to do that. So, however, I want to tell you about my shopping excursion. So the 10 precept nuns could not handle money. So us 8 precepts, we would rotate. We'd be sent into town. The location of it was halfway between Colombo and Gaul. And so we'd go into Gaul on the bus, and we'd always go by twos. We'd never go alone, go by twos and do the shopping list. So I was given the shopping list. It was my turn to shop. We went in there and you know, we went and got everything. Well, there was a swath of material that we were supposed to get. And we went into one shop, they didn't have it. We went into another shop, they didn't have it. I looked at my watch. The bus back to where we got off for Parapadua was leaving in 20 minutes or half an hour. So I said, we've got to go. We've got to go back. Otherwise, we were going to miss the bus and spend the night in Gaul. No, that wasn't going to happen. So we took the bus back, got back. I think we missed afternoon tea, whatever. And then we went through the practice period and then the Dhamma talk. And then afterwards, Ayya said, tree light, please stay. I want to talk to you. All the 8 precept anagarkas scattered off this Bhavana Sala, and all the 10 precept nuns were standing outside the walls, rubbing their hands like, oh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to tree light? So I said, yes, Ayya. She goes, I understand you did the shopping today. I said, yes, Ayya, I did. She said, you didn't get the material. And I said, no, I mean, no, I didn't. She said, I sense you have something you want to say. Well, I'm practically in tears now and can hardly breathe. And I go, yes. I said, well, Ayya, we went to 2 different shops. I could not find the material. And I realized we were going to miss the bus. So we had to catch the bus to get back here, kind of regaining a little bit something. And she said, oh, that was a very wise decision. And I felt her whole tenor shift. What my takeaway from that, and it wasn't the next day, it wasn't, but it was, I learned how to own my own authority, own my own authority of my truth in relation to a very strong authority. I was 34 when I got that lesson. Ayya Khema, deep gratitude to you and to your teachings, which are your legacy. Your teachings are your legacy. They're still available. They're coursing through our hearts, our minds, and our practices. You continue to guide us along the path to enlightenment. Sadhu. Sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Paramodami. Thank you very much, Lucinda. I feel like I was there. And I think it's wonderful for the members of our monastic community to also understand there's so much that's unique to Ayya's character and also things that are unique to, I'd say, Asian, South and Southeast Asian Buddhist monastic life from that period that I think Ayya also, in a way, faithfully shared. Yeah. So thanks so much, and Venerable Kachayana.
Anumodana for everybody's sharing again. It's wonderful and rich. Our next section is on Ayya Khema's international teaching. Because of the richness, I am going to be ringing this bell when people are, just to give people a signal of the time so that we're able to keep on schedule.
Hear what it sounds like?
Let's hear what it sounds like. Let's make sure the bell actually is audible.
Are you able to hear it? Because sometimes the Zoom
It's
erases
a little
the
faint.
bell.
Could you ring it a bit louder? It's okay. I think it's doable.
Is it coming through? Ah, okay. Good.
Yeah, that should be sufficient.
Good. So on to Ayya Khema's international teaching, and I will ring the bell as a warning for or to let people know that the time is coming to its close for their speaking.
Thank you, Venerable Gajayana. So, when I talked to Lee about what he might like to share, what he mentioned was about Ayya Khema's teaching, that teaching particularly. And Lucinda has been sharing with us about her memories, experience, process with the teaching during that time. And we'd like to welcome Lee back now, and very interested in what you would like to share with us about this. And I also want to have a check-in. I know there were some who I heard had their hand up earlier, and I just wanted to let know that we're planning towards the end of our time together, towards our formally programmed time, to actually offer an open mic time to share whatever you would like to everyone, open to anyone and everyone who's with us, to share about Ayya Khema's inspiration, her legacy, what worked for you in the practice that she taught. So everyone is welcome to stay on with us later who would like to share in that way. And anyone who has promised to be a speaker, then at that time, if you need to go, you can. It's just an open offering of an open time. So let me check in about who had their hand up. We do have time, a little bit of time, where we'll be seeing something of the, just yesterday, Ayya Khema's 100th in Germany at Buddha House. So I understand somebody wanted to share about that. And so there will be time for that a little bit later on. It's in the plan. Okay. Shall we go ahead and welcome Lee? Okay, Lee, the mic is yours. The time is yours.
Thank you. So my first meditation experience was with Ayya Khema. I thought I had meditated, and one of my friends said I should go on this retreat. I was unemployed. This was 1985. Lucinda was on Nuns Island at that time, and Ayya Khema had come back to the States and was teaching a 10-day retreat at Ruth Dennison's place in Southern California. And so off I went on this retreat, and I quickly learned that what I thought was meditation and what Ayya Khema thought was meditation didn't really overlap. But she was so clear on what the instructions were that felt like, okay, this may be better than what I was doing before. I remember in one of the question and answer sessions, I asked her a question. I have no idea what the question was, but I remember her answer. She said, "There's nothing to believe. The Buddha said, ehipassiko, come and see for yourself." You see, I grew up as a Presbyterian preacher's kid and, believed the whole Bible literally, and then eventually rejected that. I went on that retreat wanting to know about meditation, but the religion stuff, nah. I knew about religion. And yet here Ayya Khema was saying, nothing to believe, just be a scientist, learn for yourself. That really, really appealed to me. The primary practice that she was teaching was mindfulness of breathing, and she was very clear, pay attention at your nostrils. That's where it's going to be the most useful. And of course, it turns out, because it's harder, you have to concentrate more, which of course is what's going to work to take you into the jhanas. But she also showed us the body scan. She was a student of Robert Hover, who was a student of U Ba Khin, who was Goenka's teacher, as probably you know. And so about the middle of the retreat, she showed us the body scan. That was so important for me because I could not follow my breath. It was just far too boring. I'm supposed to sit there and not think. How was I going to entertain myself? Well, once she showed us the body scan, now I had something to do. And that became my practice for the next 3 years, actually. Perhaps the most important thing she said was at the very end of the retreat, she would always close her retreats with a precept ceremony, a refuge and precept ceremony. And she would give a very nice Dharma talk on the precepts. And in talking about the fifth precept, she said, "We are confused enough already. We do not need to ingest anything that will make us even more confused." Well, prior to that retreat, I was a pothead. I was stoned 5 nights a week and had been for 14 years. And yet I always want to know what was going on. And that sentence from Ayya Khema changed my life, because if I wanted to know what was going on, I needed to quit smoking pot. That's the power that this woman had. And I quit right then. After that retreat, I sort of continued. My practice was pretty good at first. It began to dwindle down. I did, go on day longs and so forth, but I wasn't really a serious meditator. But 3 years later, I went back to Asia, and in Thailand at Wat Suan Mok, Ajahn Buddhadasa's place, on a 10-day retreat there, I stumbled into what I now know is the first jhana. All I know was I got all this beautiful, happy energy, and I liked it. And I went from meditating because I knew it was good for me, because I wanted to. 2 years later, one of my friends handed me a flyer, said, "You want to go on a retreat? This teacher's really good." It was Ayya Khema, and off I went again. I go in for that first interview with her, and after introductory chit-chat, who I was, I told her I'd sat with her before, etc. She said, "Okay, well, tell me what happens when you meditate." That was the question that she wanted to know. What happens when you meditate? So that she could, take it to a better level, give you the instructions for doing so. I said, "Well, I can get to piti." And she said, "Oh, good. That's the first jhana. Here's how you do the second." For 2 years, I'd been going up to teachers telling them, "I can get to piti. What am I supposed to do with it?" I actually don't remember what anybody told me, because it didn't fit my experience, and being rather stubborn, I just ignored them. But here was someone who knew. And she gave me the instructions for the second jhana. And once I got that, the instructions for the third jhana. I mean, her clarity, both of her Dhamma talks and her instructions, was quite remarkable. When I went in after I'd gotten the fourth jhana, she gives me the instructions for the fifth jhana, get in touch with the boundaries of your being and expand them to fill the room and the meditation hall and the building and the retreat center and out to the horizon, keep going. My reaction was, "Oh no, she's gone New Age on me." Of course, I didn't say that. You would never say that to Ayya Khema. All I said was, "Yes, ma'am, I'll go try that right away." I went back, I sat down, and I knew I had to try these instructions to the absolute best of my ability if I was going to go back and tell her it didn't work, because I had to be able to tell her exactly what I did. So I sat down and did what she did, and lo and behold, the fifth jhana showed up and blew my mind. By the end of that retreat, I knew she was my teacher, and I sat with her every chance I got after that, which wasn't all that many more times. But luckily, a year later, she did a 1-week retreat followed immediately by a 1-month retreat. And by the end of that 1-week retreat, I had learned all 8 jhanas. So now I had a month to practice them. And as it turned out, to do insight practice after the jhanas. That was the real breakthrough. I had just been playing with the jhanas. Not smoking dope. I'm getting high on jhanas. And I go in for an interview about the second week of that month-long retreat, and Ayya Khema says, "Okay, now after your jhanas, you need to do insight practice." And I said, but it takes me so long to go all the way up and back down. And she said, "Do them faster." And I said, "Yes, ma'am." And I went, did them faster. And the insights that I got there were mind-blowing. Eventually, she suggested that I start teaching, and I finally said at what turned out to be her last retreat in the States, "Somebody will organize a retreat, I'll teach it." And one of her students did. And I've been teaching ever since. So yeah, all of my students owe a great debt of gratitude to Ayya Khema, because I'd have never made it without her. We all owe this incredible debt of gratitude for all that she's done, for teaching, for really founding the modern Bhikkhuni order. What an incredible life. Thank you.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much, Lee. Maybe we'll have a chance to hear some more from you later on. We're going to jump a little bit ahead in our plan for anyone like tech support who may have been looking at the plan. Venerable Bhikkhuni Jampa Sedran, who is on with us from Germany, where I think it's probably a ridiculously early time in the morning. And she's also participating in the Mind and Life conference during this time, and so much appreciate that she's able to join us together. She was with Ayya Khema for the founding, Ayya Khema and all, for the founding of Sakyadhita International in Bodh Gaya in 1987. And then in the following year in California, Hacienda Heights, Shilai Temple, coming to the West for the amazing, great, first enormous Bhikkhuni ordination in the West that was supported by Fo Guangshan. And which really, really took strides towards one of the founding purposes of Sakyadhita, which was the revival and restitution of Bhikkhuni Sanghas in the traditions which had lost that lineage, or in which it was never, we used to say, in which it was never developed. But then we find, in Tibet, actually, maybe they did have Bhikkhunis and So we're interested to hear from you, Venerable Jampala, about whatever you would like to share, especially the of Sakyadhita International. We have current president of Sakyadhita International, Sharon, on with us also. We may hear a couple of words from her later, and we would like to hear about that and whatever you'd like to share, especially founding of Sakyadhita and that great ordination in 1988. And wow, I was realizing that this year, Ayya Khema's 100th birth anniversary, that intention to have the Bhikkhuni Sangha revived in all three of the great living early Vinaya traditions has come true in this last year, in her 100th anniversary time. So wow, welcome Venerable Jampala, thank you for joining us. Tashi Delek.
Hello, very nice to meet you. Thank you very much. It's a great honor to be here with you, and also a big joy, I must say. And I will make it brief. You sent me 3 questions you wanted me to touch, and I will do so. And then we will see with the bell whether there's still time to share a few of the photos or not. I'm happy to share with you some of my memories with Venerable Ayya Khema. So how did she inspire me? Despite all my inexperience at the time, I will never forget the trust Ayya Khema put in me at a young age of 28. She empowered me in the context of the founding of Sakyadhita at the end of the first conference on Buddhist nuns in Bodh Gaya, 1987. Actually, she was scheduled to become part of the board of directors, but she pushed me in instead of her, saying that she will be busy with the Buddha house in the Allgäu now. And she was also together with today's Venerable Dhammananda at that time, Dr. and Professor Chatsuman Kabel Singh, that I should take as a monastic the lead of the Vinaya Research Committee together with Kusuma Devendra. So later in Germany, I think it was during the founding of the Peace University in 1995 in Potsdam, close to Berlin, she also invited me to join her in Buddha house, but I had already committed myself in 1980 to serve my Tibetan teacher at the Tibetan Center in Hamburg, so I couldn't do so. Ayya Khema, as far as I remember her, was very down to earth and direct in her way of teaching. She got to the heart of things, and although she had left Germany, as we heard in the beginning, at a young age, she still spoke in the German Berlin dialect. in connection with a typical hearty and refreshingly direct humor. And this expression is also called Berliner Schnauze. And I still hear her laughing when she was herself saying that this is what she's proud of still to speak. In other words, Ayya Khema embodied Buddhism in a German way. She did not try to copy Asians, but lived Buddhism self-confidently from within. So how do I see Ayya Khema's legacy? I think this became already clear by this event in itself, and she continues to live in her autobiography, her numerous books, through her students and through the Buddha House in Allgäu and other places around the world she started. And even before the founding of the Buddha House, she gave her first lectures in Hamburg in the Buddhistische Gesellschaft, Buddhist Society in Hamburg in 1977. When you visit the Buddhistische Gesellschaft, you will see her photo at as one of the patrons there. But I heard that also the last days there was a celebration in a center set up by Sylvia Kolk, where they celebrated her 100th anniversary too. I consider Ayya Khema's influence also on the interreligious dialogue to be particularly important. A fascinating book accompanies an exhibition about people who converted from Judaism to other religions or vice versa. It is titled in German, Treten Sie ein, treten Sie aus. You could translate like step in, step out. And in it, Ayya Khema says that despite being a Buddhist, she still considers herself a Jew. So she could be described as a Jubu. And just to share with you, let me see, I hopefully can find it here. Yeah, here you can see her from this, I think it must be from that book. You can see her as Ilse Kussel at young age in this book here. And yeah, I just wanted to share with you her image from the time before she became a nun, and yeah, giving details from her passport and so on. So yeah, and then
Venerable, we couldn't see that.
Oh, you couldn't see that?
No.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Let me see why you couldn't see it. Let me.
We saw the screen with a bunch of thumbnails on it, but the picture
Okay,
didn't
then
open.
it seems I have to open it before I go on sharing screen. Just let me see. No. Ah, here it is. So can you see it now? Can you see it now?
Ah, yes.
You see?
Yes.
So this is I mean, from her passport. And so a picture which they have also in this book. It's you find in this book more about her, but I felt this very interesting piece of important history when we talk about the Jubus, the Jewish Buddhists. I mean that this doesn't mean that she has the religion of Jews, but she identified. I checked with her whether she really still feels as a Jewish person still, and she said yes, for sure, definitely. So I found this very interesting, and I talked about her biography at university sometime too. And you can also find a short paragraph of her biography in the Chronics on Buddhism in Germany, composed by the lawyer Dr. Helmut Hecker. Okay, so then I will not share my photos with you, but just rush to my last sentence. Which of Ayya Khema's teaching did I like best or have been most beneficial to me? My favorite teachings of hers are her Metta meditation, starting with loving kindness to oneself and then moving on to others, with first-person experience. I still include this when I'm guiding meditation on loving kindness. And I also fondly remember her book in German, Sei dir selbst eine Insel, be yourself an island, in which she vividly describes how reality depends on the observer and their perspectives. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share with you.
You can share the photos with us later on if you like to.
Yeah, I can put them here.
I share with the participants.
I can put them here in the chat and then as a PDF file, and then you will not know, but you can at least see them.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to say special thanks because of your bringing up the interfaith aspect, and that's something that you've worked with so much and people normally don't mention in Ayya Khema's biographies in English. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. I noticed that even before she became a Buddhist monastic, actually one of the communities that she went to was an Essene Jewish community, in which they also had renunciation and keeping the Sabbath and ideas of purity and withdrawing from society. And this was earlier on. And the first community that she formed in Queensland, Australia, where she invited Prakantipalo, the organic farm, she named Shalom. So, you know, this is an aspect that we haven't heard much about that I feel like was a deep undercurrent. Thank you so much again.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's this aspect.
Conference.
Yeah, this aspect is very important for me because, as you know, I'm working at the Academy of World Religions as a professor for Buddhism for many years now. And so in the constant interfaith dialogue on an academic level, this aspect is extremely important. Yeah, thank you. Thank you again for having this event and for keeping us in touch. And I hope you were able to receive the PDF file with the photos.
Let me check with tech support, and thank you so much. Especially, I know it's the most difficult time for Germany because we knew the programs are happening in Germany already, and this time was chosen to be good for the rest of the world, especially North America, Australia, Asia, but not so much for Europe. So special thanks for joining us live.
Yeah, thank you. And I have to go to the doctor and return to office today. Holidays finished.
So, may it go well. Mangalang Jayantu.
Thank you. Thank you. It was good to see all of you.
Good to see you too. So I'd now like to invite, if she's with us, Sharon Saw, who is the current president of Sakyadhita International, if she'd like to pop in and say hello, as we already somehow started moving into our Sakyadhita section, and we're going to be going deeper into the Sakyadhita section now. Greetings. Annyeonghaseyo.
Thanks. Hello.
Hello. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having this incredible event. I have learned so much actually just from hearing everybody and just looking at the screen. It's quite a veritable who's who in the world of Sakyadhita's history. So I'm really grateful for all of you being here and for organizing this incredible event commemorating Ayya Khema's 100th birthday and really her incredible legacy. And how incredible is it that Ayya Khema, along with Venerable Dhammananda, Venerable Carmelexia Soma, John Pasedran, and Ranjani De Silva, and many others all came together in such a powerful way to transform the lives of all Buddhist women. And I myself am so, in many ways, my own academic career has been shaped by the work that's been done by all of these wonderful founding figures of Sakyadhita. So I feel like I am the recipient of so much incredible work along the historical lineage of this organization. And so I owe a deep debt of gratitude to Ayya Khema and many of the other incredible Buddhist teachers. And many of you on the Zoom call were at the Sakyadhita conference most recently in Seoul in June. And I just want to point out that we had 2,800 participants from 31 countries represented at the most recent Sakyadhita conference. And this absolutely could not have happened without the work of Ayya Khema, as well as many of the other Buddhist trailblazers. And so I'm honored to be president of this organization and grateful to be able to really herald it into the next generation. And I did not know Ayya Khema personally, but I have known so much of the work that has been done. And again, my own academic career in studying Buddhism and women and Buddhism and gender have been shaped so much when I was an undergraduate as well as a graduate student. And I just remember coming across all of these stories of Sakyadhita, and it completely changed the way I understood what was important about becoming a scholar of Buddhism. So grateful to that. And I just want to briefly mention that, listening to all these stories, I'm delighted because, and I've already reached out to a few of the folks in this Zoom call, that I'm currently working on in the very nascent stage on a global history of Sakyadhita. And there's so many living archives that are represented on this Zoom. So I want to invite all of you to share over the next few years as I work on this, because many of you are the creators of this global history. And so thank you again. Thank you for the invitation and for the opportunity to participate. It's been such a delight. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Is it 35 years now of Sakyadhita International? We're going to be hearing more. We'll be coming back to more from Sakyadhita presidents from around the world, especially from Canada, also Australia. And Sharon mentioned, as several other people have, Venerable Bhikkhuni Dhammananda, Lungme Dhammananda Theri from Thailand, previously known as Sakyadhita co-founder Chatsumar and Kapil Singh. She's here with us live, and we also have a video recording from her. Well, it looks like Green Tara is here with us live. Venerable Longme, now Venerable Mother. So glad to see you here with us together. That's really wonderful. I didn't know you would be able to join live. And we also have your video. So I'd like to ask tech support to share your video now. Would you like to say anything as you're here with us live, an introduction to your video?
Share video first, and then I have some points to add that Lee might be interested.
Okay, sure. Yes. So Venerable Dhammananda Theri, now Mahateri, as we're moving into the third decade of having Thai Bhikkhunis, with Sakyadhita is moving in the fourth decade. Thai Bhikkhunis are moving into the third decade. Let's watch and listen to her video recollection.
I would like to pay respect to my senior Sanghas, both Bhikkhus as well as Bhikkhunis, on this particular occasion that we commemorate the 100 years of passing away of Venerable Ayya Khema. Let me tell you, way back in 1980s, that was the first time that Buddhist women, Buddhist nuns were coming together. And during that time, we were corresponding with each other through mails, writing. My letter would take 1 week to get to their place, to get to United States, and they take yet another week to reply. So maybe in a month's time, we get only 2 letters. In 1984, it dawned on me that we as Buddhist women really need a proper channel to connect with each other, to learn about each other's work, and very important, to support each other. So in October 1984, I launched the very first newsletter on International Buddhist Women's Activities. It is called NIBWA, N-I-B-W-A. This newsletter was quarterly and continued for 30 years. Very important. Now it has become very important historical record for the history of Buddhist women during that time. it was with this mailing list of this newsletter that somehow we connect with other women. In 1987, 3 of us, Venerable Khema, Venerable Ayya Khema, Venerable Kamaleksha Somo, American nun, ordained in Tibetan tradition, but based, at that time she was based in India. And myself, still a layperson, Dr. Kabir Singh. Please note that these 3 were all K. Venerable Ayya Khema, Venerable Kamaleksha Somo, and myself, Dr. Kabir Singh. We were involved in organizing the very first international conference on Buddhist nuns. Imagine, that was more than 2,000 years ago. Women never met. And that was the first time that we came together under this International Buddhist Nuns Conference. It was held in Bodh Gaya, because at that time His Holiness Dalai Lama usually would come to Bodh Gaya to give the annual teaching, and there was a large crowd. So immediately after His Holiness teaching, we organized our conference, actually using the same tent outside in a large ground. So at our opening session, we also had something like 1,000 people participating. We have photos to show you that how we came together. Now, in 1991, so the first International Buddhist Nuns Conference was in 1987 with the 3 co-founders, Venerable Khema, Venerable Ayya Khema, Venerable Kamaleksha Somo, and myself as a layperson, Dr. Kabir Singh. In 1991, I proposed that it should be, this conference should expand, should be more inclusive. So it became the very first International Buddhist Women Conference. This was held in Thailand, in Thammasat University, where I was teaching. Venerable Ayya Khema was the deciding voice, because Venerable Kamaleksha Somo wanted to keep it as Buddhist nuns, but I thought Buddhist nuns were so small, we do need support from a larger group of Buddhist women. That was the reason why 1991 conference was called International Buddhist Women, not Buddhist nuns. But then Venerable Ayya Khema was deciding voice to say that no, we should go by International Buddhist Women. So ever since then, this meeting is known as the first as a International Buddhist Women's Conference. The term Sakyadhita was already proposed at the very first conference in 1987, but it was not used. It was used only in Sri Lanka. So in 1993, when Ranjini actually hosted the conference in Sri Lanka, it was called the third Sakyadhita conference, counting the first one in Bodh Gaya as the first one, and counting the one in Bangkok in 1991 as the second one. So throughout this time we were together, the 3 co-founders were working together. But we have to give credit to Venerable Kamaleksha Somo, because she was based in India, and the actual activities, the actual conference was in India. So she was really the one who is behind it. But at that time, 3 of us were co-founders. Venerable Ayya Khema was my mentor, my mentor when I started any project from my temple as a layperson. I always ask her for guidance. She has always been my mentor towards her last 2 decades of her life. In 1988, then she was fully ordained as Bhikkhunis. Before that, she was taking 8 precepts and she was wearing brown. She tried to start a center for Buddhist nuns in a small island in Sri Lanka called Parappaduwa Island. Later on, she asked somebody else, a Dutch nun, to continue it. And Venerable Ayya Khema was very active with us until she passed away in 1997, leaving behind a legacy of Buddhist nuns in her time. This year, she is remembered as 100 years. At the same time, Venerable Varamai Kabir Singh is 115 years if she was still alive. So I would like to pay respect to both of them. Venerable Varamai Kabir Singh, the first Bhikkhuni in Thailand, now she is 115, and Venerable Ayya Khema, my mentor and co-founder of Sakyadhita for her centenary, 100 years. One picture that I remembered, and I thought it would be historical, was a picture taken at our temple in 1991. There was Venerable Ayya Khema from Germany, Venerable Huan, or sometimes they call it Xiao Yun Fa Si from Taiwan, also senior Bhikkhuni at that time. Venerable He Shun Suk. Venerable He Shun Suk was a president of the Bhikkhuni association in Korea, and Venerable Varamai Kabir Singh from Thailand. So the four of them, the four senior Bhikkhunis of that time, it was historical. And then you could see Ranjani, who actually organized Sakyadhita in Sri Lanka in 1993, and myself, still a layperson. We were seated on the full ground, like lay women supporting the Bhikkhunis, So that photo is really historical. And at this time, we, the younger generation, if they are the first generation, we are the second generation. And we are also getting old. Yet we do have younger generation to continue this legacy started from Venerable Ayya Khema way back in 1980s. So we recognize her, we remembered her, and we would like to pay respect to her legacy and to continue her legacy into the future. Thank you.
Venerable, you had mentioned Long Mei. You had mentioned that you'd like to add a point or two.
Yes, I would like to add a point about Khantipalo. Venerable Khantipalo, he was sent from Thailand by the Sangharaja. Very important connection. And then the land that he started building the temple was the land given by Ayya Khema. You see the connection. So now when we held the conference, International Conference on Buddhist Nuns in Thailand in 1991, we invited the Sangharaja to come for the opening session. He accepted, but in the actual day he didn't come, because of what you call red tape, held him back. So I gathered all the women who came just before the actual conference, and we went to see him at his temple. And Venerable Ayya Khema was there, of course, and she was a big friend of Sangharaja, the Venerable Sangharaja, because when Sangharaja went to Australia, he stayed in her place. So that was a great connection that Venerable Sangharaja also could not say no. So even though he did not come personally, formally at the opening session, all of us, the Buddhist women, the Bhikkhunis, went to see him. And this is recorded. I think it's very important for our movement that I think Sharon Su would be interested. Thank you so much, Venerable. I think also I have to thank Venerable T for asking me to do this, because I think Heinz Roger must have got in touch with me, but I had not been well and I was not checking email for a long time. So it was only through Venerable T who actually got in touch with my secretary. That's why I could be here. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks to your secretary, Venerable Dhamma Paripunna, for getting through, and we hope you're feeling better, Venerable. May you feel well soon.
I hope.
Oh, It's really an important time. I'm so glad you could join us because anicca, I feel like it's the changing of the generation, and so important to be able to like pass this forward, to carry these merits forward. I want to mention also to everyone, you might not be aware, but a little bit more than a year ago, the UTBSI, United Theravada Bhikkhunī Sangha International, was founded. I feel like if Ayya Khema was alive, certainly she would be a part of it. Venerable Dhammananda Lungme Dhammananda Terry is one of the founding coordinators. I've also served as a coordinator during this time. And I'd like to invite everyone who would like to learn more in a really simple and accessible way about the Vinaya, Bhikkhuni Vinaya. Venerable Dhammananda on her YouTube channel and live has been offering a series of short, just 1 hour, each section of the Bhikkhuni Vinaya, and very accessible and easy to understand. And yet also you get a good understanding. So I'd like to welcome and invite everyone who's interested in that to check that out and other programs in UTBSI. And thanks again to Venerable Dhammananda Terry for joining us amongst the co-founders with Ayya Khema of Sakyadhita International, and correspondence even for like years before that gave rise to so much progress, so much opening, so much virtue during our lifetimes together. So anumodana sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now we're in, like we moved into our Sakyadhita section. Somehow I'm just looking because we shifted our order just a little bit and thinking maybe it would be good somehow to combine, because we had Ayya Khema's international teachings, and then also those who are very important in this are also now leading up Sakyadhita chapters in different areas. Jayanta, Shirley Johannesson leading up Sakyadhita Canada, and also from early on. Are you with us, Jayanta? Good, very nice to see you. And from early on also she was organizing and hosting Ayya Khema's teachings in North America. So we'd like to invite you, and if Helen is here also, to give her a heads up. Helen Richardson is president of Sakyadhita Australia currently. It took longer for the Australia chapter to gel into like something legal, but Ayya Khema was a part of it in its earlier incarnation from earlier on. So I want to welcome the two of you and your sharing about Ayya Khema's teaching, inspiration, the international teaching, and maybe a little bit of something for Sharon and others about how these Sakyadhita chapters in Canada and Australia came into being. Very little. Then Sharon can interrogate you afterwards.
Thank you very much, Ayya.
Welcome.
Well, thank you. I'll be brief. Well, as brief as I can be. In Canada, I've had the good fortune, and those of us that are following the Theravadan tradition had a good fortune in the early 70s, mid 70s, to be introduced to a Buddhist nun, Anagarika Dhammadina, and that was in the mid 70s. And she was my teacher, she was my mentor, she was my very good friend. And she says to me, I've just heard about a really good German nun. Maybe you should invite her to Canada. And so as Venerable Dhammananda was saying, you write a letter, you wait 2 weeks, it takes a long time. I wrote to Ayya Khema and invited her to Canada. She said, yes, I'd be delighted to come. And so in 1987, she came to Canada. Unknown to me at the time is the Nuns conference in Bulgaria had just taken place. So she arrives in Canada shortly after that, excited about this conference, and she came to lead a retreat, a meditation retreat for us. And so she says to me, when we have our next conference, why don't you come and you can represent Canada? Well, I'm young. I don't have any idea what that meant, but for sure I will. She was very convincing. And so then the next conference was in 1990 in Santa Barbara. It was a North American conference. So I go to that. And then the next year in 1991, Ayya's right there. She's edging me, pushing me on, saying, come represent Canada. So I went to the conference in Thailand, and that's where I met Venerable Dhammananda for the first time, and took part in that conference. And it took a few years for Sakyadhita International to become, I'm going to say, registered legally in the United States. And as soon as they did that, Karma Lekshi said to me, will you please register your organization in Canada? And so I did. And we got nonprofit charitable status. And we've been running ever since. We're a small organization. The whole idea from my heart and with Ayya's encouragement was to support and connect women in Canada, both lay women and monastics. And that is still we're a big country, and we don't have many people compared to the United States. So it's been so rewarding. And Ayya came to Canada many times after that and led retreats for us. I followed her around and partook in retreats where she was teaching. And when she did the ordination in Los Angeles, she was writing me letters continually and sending me pictures of the ordination because she was so excited to be there at that time. So she became instantly a very good friend, a meditation teacher, a mentor, encouraging practice. And just, I'll finish just sort of on one main note is, for me and for many of my students and the people in Canada, is she offered a way, particularly for lay women, to practice, to have Dhamma as their foundation in their life. And she could relate to us. She was married, she had children, she had grandchildren. And we as lay supporters could understand what she was telling us. She was very practical, very forthright, as many have said. She didn't bat an eye about things, but very, very supportive and a very dear friend. And so I'll just finish by saying she's in our hearts, and love her and love the memories of her, and so appreciate the teachings that she gave us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jayanta, and congratulations on blessing and inaugurating a new Bhikkhuni's place in the Canadian Rockies. Canmore, the Canmore Buddhist community, now becoming a place for Bhikkhunis just recently. So we have a message from another one of Sakyadhita International's co-founders, who was also there. She was already fully ordained, but supporting that 1988 ordination in which Ayya Khema received her ordination together with 200 other Bhikkhunis, 12 of them from Theravada traditions. So a message from Venerable Bhikkhuni Thupten Chodron, who has founded the Shravasti Abbey community here in the United States in Washington State. She is not on because of wildfires in that area, and we want to think about sending blessings to all the firefighters there, and we hope that the abbey, the monastery, is safe. So she writes, she sent this message: I was at the first Sakyadhita conference in Bodh Gaya and was very impressed by the fact that 3 women from different Buddhist traditions got together to make this event happen. This event began the ever-lengthening list of Sakyadhita conferences, bringing together so many different women from different traditions, different countries, with different cultural backgrounds. I'm sure the Buddha would be pleased with the sharing and harmony that has ensued from this. Unfortunately, I can't join the program. The entire Shravasti Abbey community had to evacuate the abbey last Friday due to a fire that spread quickly and is burning over 11,000 acres. The community has been dispersed among 7 households of friends and supporters in the Spokane and Coeur d'Alene areas nearby. My main focus is keeping the community in touch with one another through discussions, teachings, etc., as well as working with the contractor and the Abbey Buddha Hall team. Their main Buddha Hall is in the midst of construction. This is, I think, their largest project to date, to decide whether construction can continue during the evacuation or should pause, which would push more construction to winter when it's difficult for workers. Please share with everyone my greetings and respect for Ayya Khemā, who has made such a strong and worthy contribution to the continuation of the Buddha Dhamma in this age. Down from Venerable Bhikkhuni Thupten Chodron. Now we'd like to invite Helen, if she's here with us, President of Sakyadhita Australia, and close to Ayya Khemā for years and years before that, stretching back maybe even to the early days that we were hearing about from Venerable Jigwang before.
Thank you, and thank you for organizing this very special event. Sakyadhita Australia didn't really get going until about 2016. A group of us got together, actually inspired by the Sakyadhita International Conferences, particularly in Vaishali and in Yogyakarta. But that was well after Ayya Khemā had passed. But I think in a way her influence is with us, and it certainly inspired me along the Sakyadhita path. And when I was asked to be president in 2019, I remember saying to the group then, I think Ayya Khemā is with me. I think, you know, the Sakyadhita inspiration is coming from her. Because when I knew her, which was in the 80s and 90s, she used to talk about the Sakyadhita International Group in those very early days. And she wrote to me on those postcards that Acharya Nisarano mentioned, those closely typed postcards. And she sent me the newsletter of the International Buddhist Women. She sent me quite a few copies. So she was, you know, trying to keep me informed about everything that was going on. So I think that was very much an influence. As you said, I personally knew her. I met her at the Wat in the very early 80s, where I was immediately struck by the clarity of her teachings and how, you know, she spoke so directly. And then I'm from Melbourne, and she came to Melbourne to the Buddhist Society there very often and gave talks, and so many people came to these talks. The Buddhist Society couldn't hold them, so they were moved to libraries and such, and she gave many retreats. She always had so much energy. I've been thinking, I think she was the first nun I saw in brown robes. Although I'd spent time in Thailand, all the mechis there at that time all wore white. So this was the first woman I'd seen in brown. So look, we're immensely grateful to her in Australia. We consider her an Aussie. I believe she had dual citizenship. She gave so much to us. She laid so much groundwork, and it keeps inspiring us in Sakyadhita. Thank you.
Sadhu. Thank you very much. And Helen, I want to thank you for letter and photos. I feel like there's a research article that's needed about the first women's ordinations in Australia back in 1984, and I looked online and could find nothing, and people don't know about it, and I just learned about this from you. I think and you and Venerable Ajahn Nisarano just 2 days ago, and so there's an important page or pages in the history that we weren't knowing about that was happening in Australia with Ayya Khema and Prakantipalo that's still to be opened up and documented.
Just very quickly, in late 80s, I've just forgotten the exact date, early 90s, Prakantipalo ordained 3 women as nuns, Ayya Susanna, Ayya Chandima, and Ayya Santi, in a special ceremony, and they took brown robes. And stayed at the Wat for some years, and Ayya Chandima and Ayya Santi, I think, taught elsewhere after that. So 3, it's not very widely known, but we did have that ordination at Wat Buddhadam.
Thank you for mentioning that, and I look forward to learning more about it. These are some of the kind of gems of her story and heritage and Ayya Khema's legacies that are emerging here.
Ayya Khema was with those nuns. She was very much alive and going to the Wat at that time. So I would say very much an influence.
Thank you. And I think it's maybe a good transition in a way to what we had planned as our last kind of planned formal session together. And that's about Ayya Khema's legacy, particularly. Ayya Khema's stupa, the Bhikkhuni Sangha, the legacy section. Venerable Jhana.
Yes, so one more section here is Ayya Khema's legacy in terms of her stupa and the Bhikkhuni Sangha. So inviting our next group of speakers.
So I was seeing Susan Pembroke with us before, and she has been so important to our Dhammadharini Bhikkhuni's community here since we started 18 years ago. 2 more years, it will be 20 years, and then founded the Alliance for Bhikkhunis not long after that, just the following year. So we had the founding of our North American Bhikkhuni Association, 2004, Dhammadharini, 2005, Alliance for Bhikkhunis, 2006, and the ball really started getting rolled. I mean, the Bhikkhunis with their hands on the turning of the Dhamma wheel started really getting rolling around that time in this area. And you're such an important part of that. And so Susan also, we got to know her, was leading retreats in Ayya Khema's tradition in California and maybe elsewhere. Welcome. Let's hear from you.
Lovely to see you.
Ayya Khema's legacy. Alliance for Bhikkhunis. What happened?
Yeah, I guess I have just a couple of things. I want to keep my comments short. It's lovely, Ayya. Thank you for organizing it. It's such a joy to see so many old friends, monastic and lay. It's a delight. And I was moved to tears at different times as I listened to people share. And, she touched our hearts and is still alive. I came to know her later in her life. I had been studying of Vipassana in the mid-1980s, and I came across her book, Where the Iron Eagle Flies, and I saw this chapter on jhanas, as people mentioned, and I just thought I have to study with her. Many of us had, I remember her saying during one of her talks that she had several episodes of jhana when she was a child, and that many of her students had had jhana experiences as children. And I believe that it encouraged her when she was studying the suttas that she could draw on her own experience, like the Buddha under the rose apple tree remembered jhana. I think she recalled her own experience. It was very direct. And I think it also gave her tremendous confidence in the suttas because she could see her own, past lived experience in her life. And I just, was so impressed with that. So I think just many people flocked to her because we were kind of kindred spirits who kind of had some experience of jhana as a child. And I recall her one day talking about mastering the jhanas. She had learned the first 4 and knew them quite well. I remember her saying it was midnight in a monastery. It was cold and drafty. She felt miserable. She had hours of meditating ahead of her. And either she could just have 4 or 5 hours of pure torture, or she could just really understand or master the last 4. And anyone who knows her knows how determined and fierce and ferocious she was. So there she goes, and she learned the last 4 jhanas. So that and those of us who've had interviews with her, we took our practice really seriously because you didn't want to go in there and be goofing around and not have, and not be giving it your all. And even though she could be so intense, she could be so tender. On one retreat, I had really bad back pain. My own mother couldn't have been more compassionate. So I will kind of close with her legacy. As I have mentioned, I had gone to a Sakyadhita conference in 2006 in Kuala Lumpur and met some newly ordained Thai bhikkhunis, and I was shocked at how they were being treated. It just was like a gut punch for me, because the only bhikkhuni I knew was Ayya Khema, who nobody messed with her. She was, insistent on equality. So meeting them and wanting to help them led to the incorporation of the Alliance for Bhikkhunis, just so that we could legally raise some money and send some money to Thailand. And then other monies were, of course, generated over the years. So anyway, I just wanted to share that so other people have time to talk. Thank you. It's wonderful seeing everybody. Love you.
Thank you, Susan. It's wonderful to have you together. I want to mention that the Alliance for Bhikkhunis has openings for new board members and volunteers, and they are incredible in that anyone who wants to make a donation for a Theravada Bhikkhuni project anywhere in the world, the Alliance for Bhikkhunis will help them do that. And much more. Susan, as founding president, was just such an advocate, and it made such an enormous difference to just have someone who was not, what's the word, pussyfooting, or but just clearly supportive publicly, and dedicated to doing that. It's just that example made such a big difference. So thank you very much for that from all of our whole Dhammadharini community and the other Bhikkhunis communities in North America and so many around the world. We anumodhana, rejoicing in the virtues and all the good that's come from that. In this section of Ayya Khema's legacy, then we also have Ayya Suchinta, who is also born in Germany. No, not with us. Nope. Well, we had thought we might have Ayya Suchinta to be speaking about her legacy in Germany. And earlier on, we had another Ayya Dhammananda from Vietnam, who also would be in a way, third generation of Ayya Khema's legacy. Not with us anymore. She was early on. Well, blessings to her. She was a part of ordained with Venerable Bhikkhuni Kusuma in Sri Lanka after ordination started there again, and then part of the Ayya Khema International Center in Sri Lanka. Let us go on then to, let me see, Malai and Venerable Jutindra. And then we'll see and hear something about the recent, very recent commemoration yesterday in Germany at Buddha House. From you, would you like to say hello to everyone? This is Dr. Malai Uch, founder of the Cambodian School of San Francisco, faithful supporter of our Dhammadharini Bhikkhunis community, and also founder of Global Compassion and Engagement, and of the Cambodian Bhikkhuni Sangha initiative. Thank you so much for joining us. We're jumping into the present and even the living, unfolding future now of Ayya Khema's legacy.
Thank you, Ayya, and hello everyone. I really appreciate the all the talks and speaks. I've learned so much more, and thank you. And I think I did a small short video, but also what I like to say quickly is that her teaching, I just started listening to her, so it's so practical. So I'm hoping that I've gained some of her teaching as well.
Sadhu. Malai visited Germany recently. You'll be hearing about that from her, but just not this last full moon, but the full moon before, the July full moon, there was the second Theravada Bhikkhuni ordination in Europe, in Germany, in the Bavarian Alps of Allgäu. You have to tell me, how to pronounce it? Allgäu. And we have one of the Bhikkhunis who was ordained there, Venerable Bhikkhuni Jutindra. Now she's nearly 2 months as a Bhikkhuni. And the fourth woman of Cambodian heritage internationally. She's Cambodian German. And we have also 2 Cambodian American Bhikkhunis and a Cambodian Canadian Bhikkhuni as well. And Malai is going to be sharing a little bit with us about this most recent Bhikkhuni ordination in Germany at Anenja Vihara, which the founding was inspired by Ayya Khema. It's nearby to Buddha House and very, very just within walking distance to Ayya Khema's stupa. So Malai made a pilgrimage there recently, and Venerable Jutindra, who is with us, has spent, I think, many hours walking there and meditating with Ayya Khema's stupa. So we're seeing this next generation legacy now. Welcome to Malai's video.
Greetings, I'm Dr. Malai Uch. Thank you for this opportunity to be part of honoring Ayya Khema's legacy on her 100th birth anniversary. I came to Germany to support the Theravada Bhikkhuni ordination at Anenja Vihara of 3 Bhikkhunis on July 2nd, 2023. One of the 3 newly ordained Bhikkhunis was the 4th Cambodian woman to be ordained as a Theravada Bhikkhuni. She completed the community of the Cambodian Bhikkhuni Sangha, which was historical for the Cambodian community. I had an opportunity to take a walk to the Buddha House on July 4th, 2023, with Venerable Jutindra, the 4th Cambodian Bhikkhuni, Venerable Sudama, another Bhikkhuni, a seminary, and an Upasika. Buddha House, where Ayya Khema's stupa resides, is only about 15 to 20 minutes of walking from Anenja Vihara. I thought of visiting Ayya Khema's stupa during my flight to Germany. She was an exemplar to my efforts of helping to revive the Cambodian Bhikkhuni Sangha. Ayya Khema, from 1923 to 1997, was an international Buddhist teacher and the first Western woman to become a Theravada Buddhist nun, an advocate of Buddhist women's rights, In 1987, she helped coordinate the first conference for the Sakyadhita International Association of Buddhist Women in Bodh Gaya, India. Ayya Khema, may your 100th birth anniversary bring the true Buddhist teachings, peace, and happiness to this world. Thank you.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And I want to let you know the pictures of the 4 bhikkhunis there with the rocks around them. That's actually at our Aranya Bodhi Forest Hermitage just last weekend, or the weekend before. They're all 4 with us studying Bhikkhuni Vinaya in 3 languages this Vasa, in Pali, English, and Khmer language. So this is a special offering and dedication this Vasa. Venerable Jitindra, would you tell us about your experience with Ayya Khema's stupa and also living at Ananja Vihara, training there, and Ayya Khema's legacy in Germany?
From Ananja Vihara to the stupa of Ayya Khema, we just walk maybe 15 minutes or 20 minutes, but I Subhana want to go a little bit more see the night view, and then we go walk the other way. As I stay at Ananja Vihara, and when I have time I go to the stupa from Ayya Khema and sit there and meditate. And very beautiful near the stupa from Ayya Khema. I feel very much metta, I can sit there. I think if I have time I can sit all day there. Very beautiful energy, very much metta, and can sit deeply and very calm. And after we go there, Malaivan go to see her room that she lived before, but the Buddha house have many meditation course, and that time we cannot go there. But before I have go to visit her room with Ayya Sudhamma, and then as I go there, it's very, very beautiful. I stay and just stay, and then it's very calm, very, very great Dhamma energy that I fall in knee and make 3 times fall, and yes, and sing very thankful to her Dhamma teaching and her great head. Yes.
Sadhu.
It's very,
Sadhu.
very beautiful and very thankful to her.
Sadhu. So this is what we're seeing now, the next generation of bhikkhunis arising, and this was the first year that there was actually a German Bhikkhuni Sangha to take part in then the dual ordination of ordaining more bhikkhunis in Germany. And I heard Venerable Jitindra went to see Ayya Khema's stupa, meditated there, and then she was very interested to know more about her. Like, oh, we have a Bhikkhuni stupa in Germany here. And who is this? What is the story? And so I hope tonight and also with this recording, this will be an opportunity for many who are interested to be able to learn and to know more, and for this good energy, as you said, and legacy to be carried forward. We maybe have Bante Olande, it's from Holland, Ananda, to share with us his photos from his recent attendance at Ayya Khema's 100th program at Buddha House on August 25th. And if Bante Olande Ananda is not with us, we have his photos, and I heard that Bante Sukachito, who is also there, is with us and is willing to narrate the photos for us and to share with us about this. Welcome, Bante Sukachito. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, good morning from Ananja Vihara. Can you hear me okay? Because I know the speaker is not working very well with this iPad. Can you hear
Yes,
me okay?
pretty good. A little mumbly.
Okay, I can't stop that. Yeah, thank you very much to Venerable Champasedran. She sent this link and I just got to know it. I'm skipping the morning meditation here with the nuns who should show up 10 minutes here for breakfast time. And it's just lovely to see this wonderful gathering of bhikkhunis and a few monks, to see old friends, Lee. It's just, these memories came up from our retreats together with the late Venerable Ayya Khema. Just to share, maybe on Friday, we had a celebration here at Ananja Vihara. We walked over, we circumambulated this stupa at Buddha House, and then we meditated together and chanted together at her room, which is really a powerful spot for meditation. And then, we had a celebration in the evening here, a 2-hour and 45-minute event. Quite a few people came from outside. Heinz showed up. He shared some, anecdotes from her life. I shared a little bit. And one of the bhikkhunis, she made a beautiful painting. Not one of the bhikkhunis, Lena, a lay supporter here in Anagarika. She painted a beautiful picture of Ayya Khema, which is now in the shrine above. And one of the freshly ordained bhikkhunis was sharing biography, really touching, reading partly from her book, partly commenting. And just look how beautiful that stupa was decorated on that day. Olanda Ananda.
Oh, so beautiful.
When there were about 200 people, they put up a tent, and Olanda Ananda, he was a person who knew the late Ayya Khema the longest. So he also spoke at that event. Yeah, these are the nuns celebrating 3 times. Olanda and myself, we only. That is Roland Nyanabodhi, ex-monk, the ex-abbot or successor, you can say, of the late Ayya Khema. Unfortunately, he just broke 2 years ago or so. That's one of Olanda Ananda. As I said, he knew Ayya Khema the longest of all the participants. That gives you an idea of the tent. The weather in the afternoon turned quite challenging, kind of rain. And that stupa was just so powerful. This is an unfortunate thing. They sell these books, unfortunately, not on Dharna base, a tradition well established. Ayya Khema tradition selling Dharma books. This is a meditation hall at Buddha House. It was well used. At her room, I don't know if photos come from her room, they put up a beautiful slideshow, running permanently, 15 minutes with beautiful slides from her life, from Parapadura, Nuns Island, from the different conferences and so on. Oh, I don't know who this is. So Buddha House is just such a beautiful place. And now maybe the nuns come for breakfast. I just hear somebody. This was just after our that was actually on Friday when we walked over on her actual birth anniversary. That was the day before the big event at Buddha House, where the nuns community from here you see sitting on the left, and Venerable Olanda Ananda. That is a beautiful spot and powerful place. And if I should stop where we're talking, but otherwise I could share some experiences I had with late Ayya Khema. Is that okay, or should I stop?
Yes, I just want to mention though that our tech support needs to go within 5 minutes, and we have one more very short video to come after this that we need our tech support to play. So,
maybe if there's time later, but I'm not sure. It's our breakfast time also in 5 minutes.
Also, there's going to be, I know that you need to go as well, because maybe it's even like the morning offering time for food today there. But I did want to mention...
a few more minutes, but I can stop here. And just to encourage you, watch videos and teachings of Ayya Khema. She's so powerful, so direct. But I also want to mention she had a very interesting nickname. It's not a secret. Her nickname was Ayatollah, because she was such a powerful, strong force in the Dhamma, but also in community leadership. And people who were living with her, they needed a great dedication. to put up with her level of energy. It was incredible, really, Even late with her cancer, was powerful how she was still present in the Dhamma and sharing the Dhamma in a direct way. No bullshit, straightforward from the heart, Thank you.
Sadhu, inspiring. Thank you very much, Bhante, for joining us and for so patiently also being with us. And I hope that you'll be able to have food today still. And Anumodhana, congratulations on having more Bhikkhunis, full Bhikkhuni Sangha, and ordaining more Bhikkhunis recently in Germany. Congratulations to all at Ananja Vihara. Greetings to all our Ayya Palanyani abbess and teacher there, and all our venerable Bhikkhunis. Venerable Anuvedita Bhikkhuni ordained here at Aranya Bodhi Hermitage 2 years ago, and we just send all of our blessings, goodwill, love, and support to all beings there. So now, while we still have tech support with us for maybe 3 minutes more, we want to invite, if she's with us, it might be too late, I don't know, Reverend Kosan, Carla Callahan, if she's here, and we have a video of her painting. So this image that's behind here is actually from a vision of mine. It's a composite of a picture that was taken of the stupa by Venerable Jutindra, together with a picture that was with Ayya Khema and Ruth together there in the Bavarian Alps. And they're both so important to me, so I see Ruth there together somehow. Reverend Kosan has been painting this painting, and she's shared a little video with us. This is going to be a legacy commemorative heritage painting, and if any of you would like to have a print of it, please let me know. So thank you, Matthew, for your tech support. Reverend Kosan is a Zen nun, and she has ALS, and she's an artist and still able to paint with the brush in her mouth. And she loves to paint those who have been inspiring teachers to her. So this is her working on this painting of Ayya Khema and her stupa, as Ayya Khema is very special and important to her. She said maybe it's her last painting, but I think maybe there are more. Thank you. Kosan, are you with us? Well, just sending blessings with all of our loving kindness and appreciation to you. Maybe we'll inaugurate the painting around the September full moon for the founding anniversary of the Bhikkhuni Sangha, 2607, maybe, to be announced. Yes, please, Venerable Gajayana.
Well, I think we may have come to the end of the formally scheduled part of our program. And the next section is an open gathering time for people to share, those who are still here with us. Would you like to introduce this section, Ayya?
Yes, this section was envisioned as being, like an open mic time for anyone and everyone who is with us for perhaps 15-20 minutes. And to speak to, we ask limiting speaking time to 4 minutes, and welcome to speak on one or more of these 3 topics: memories from your heart. How was Ayya Khema inspiring to you? How do you see Ayya Khema's legacy? What teaching of Ayya Khema's do you most love, or have you found most useful? And after that, we'll have an audio clip of Ayya Khema with Metta meditation and dedication of merit, offered by her for our closing. Welcome. Open mic, the time is yours. Thank you, Matthew, for your tech support. Welcome to raise hands, and we now have Seminary Tavira stepping up for tech support to spotlight you. Bante Sukachito, if you're still with us, would you like to share your inspiring thing now to start? Would you like them to put in the chat if they would like to speak? Raise real life hands or virtual hands or put in the chat. And also, I see we also have, hold on, can you please, just a moment, spotlight Susie, if you don't mind. We have our president of Dhammadharini Support Foundation, Sri Sakul Susie Charansiri Clicks is here. And thank you very much for joining us. Now could be a moment if you would like, or a little bit later on after this section at the end if you would like, according to what's comfortable for you. Oh, we want to unmute you somehow. And we also
I think I'd like to take the opportunity now, if I could have a few minutes. Basically, you all been working so hard. So I just want to share and offer my congratulations to Dhammadharini and the and the members of the monastic for a wonderful hard work that gave fruit to a wonderful gathering to commemorate the 100 years of Ayya Khema, and not only to bring together those who were in touch with her life while she was still alive, and to rekindle that spirit. But for those who had missed that, they now, through this meeting, to be able to learn and be able to have the knowledge, transmitted to their generation. So I wanted to congratulate Dhammadharini and with appreciation of your effort in bringing us together. And hopefully that this kind of activity will continue on. And I like to let the viewers and participants who appreciate this kind of knowledge sharing and the gathering, of the energy to make it alive and on, to help us, to help Dhammadharini to be able to continue to do such great work as such. So if you are inclined to also help us in a way that if you can get to our website, and if you are inspired to support us through the donation of any amount or any level at all, we would appreciate very much. And we would love to be able to continue supporting Dhammadharini for their effort, and to be more and many more throughout the years. And Anumodana everyone, and Anumodana for Dhammadharini Monastic.
Anumodhana doi, anumodhana together, saha anumodhana. Thanks very much to Susie for faithfully leading up Dhammadharini Support Foundation for the last 10 years, also our previous presidents. And, you know, we have here in North America, amazingly, living with the 311 precepts of Bhikkhuni Patimokkha, we have 10 Bhikkhunis and seminaries, also anagarika and aspirants and friends who are here with us, maybe 16 with us right now or so, and more during this Vasa time. And thanks to Dhammadharini Support Foundation and the Alliance for Bhikkhunis for being channels of so many people's generosity from around the world that makes this like vision of Ayya Khema and others from 30, 35, 40 years ago able to be like in living manifestation at this time and without the glass ceiling. I mean, it still exists, but not impenetrable. So thank you to Susie, and I got the message that Ayya Palanyani, who now is Venerable Bhikkhuni Palanyani Terry, and amongst Bhikkhuni preceptors in our world, I think she is the one most recently appointed, just 2 months ago in Germany at Ananja Vihara for this ordination of 3 German women, including German Cambodian. And if she's here, then I'd like to invite and welcome her, and I see others have their hands up, and you're next. Ayya Palanyani ordained here at Aranya Bodhi, 13 in the 20, our first Bhikkhuni Sangha Vasa in North America in 2010. And yes, our next generation of Bhikkhuni preceptors. Oh, well, maybe when she comes, we can go ahead, and when she arrives, then we'll welcome her.
Yes, so inviting those who wish to share. I see a hand up from Joseph Hammond.
Thank you so much, Venerables. I just wanted to express my gratitude for everyone involved with Ayya Khema's book, The Path to Peace. I think that's edited by Leigh Brasington. My favorite teachings was the flower garden. That was the first meditation I heard on Insight Timer that introduced me to Ayya Khema, and just that ability to realize that metta was a way to cultivate an inner sense of abundance. That teaching that no matter how many flowers we offer everyone, there's always more in the garden of our heart. And her ability to just kind of say, flowers, there's also, imagine a fountain of love, or imagine sunlight in particular. I feel so grateful for these teachings, especially this style of, it's based in visualization. That was very, a great gift, and I'm very grateful. And that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph.
I just want to say that I'm almost certain that the flower garden was Ayya Khema's favorite way of doing guided metta. She always saved that one for the best time, when there were going to be the most people, etc. It's a powerful one.
So I'd just like to mention to our monastic community here and online, you're also welcome. You don't have to be only observers.
You could say something.
Yes, please, Venerable Kachayana. Now I'll be your moderator.
Yes, so I had the great opportunity 2 years ago during our Dhammadharini winter retreat time to be fully on retreat for those 3 months. And we were using the guided the teachings of Ayya Khemā. We had video recordings of retreats that she had led, as well as support from Lee Brasington, who I'm happy to see again this evening. And I just wanted to say that was a very useful and important time for me to have that. And there are many of the teachings of Ayya Khemā's that have, stuck with me, stuck in my head, little phrases here and there. Often the ones that have stuck are like the sort of sharp ones, the direct ones, the challenging ones. And just having the moments of seeing those sort of sharp and challenging teachings, then somehow they land and they make a difference and allow it to see in a different way. It's helpful that they're balanced by the metta, which is very strong also. So sort of this balance of the very direct, very sharp, challenging teachings that can break through something, and also the compassion and the depth of metta. A couple of the ones that are coming to mind, there are a lot actually, but there's one where she was responding to a question from somebody at the retreat about I think anxiety, like social anxiety, and how do you work with that, which is also something that I've had in my life. And she told that person, you don't love people enough. That's why you have anxiety. And like, wow, what a challenging thing to say. But also, it's true in a way. I can see in myself that when there is fear of someone, or if there is, that kind of feeling about something, it's because of not having love. And if that's something that can be developed and brought up, then the fear doesn't need to be there. And then she also, of course, gives the directions on how to do that, how to develop that, how to bring that up. It's not just the challenge; it's also the way to do it and the clarity about that part as well. So it's just one example of something that I really appreciated in her teaching that has stayed with me, continues to challenge me, but that I have found useful. So I'll stop there.
Sadhu. Thank you for sharing. Others in our monastic community who may feel moved to share are also welcome. Do we have Ayya Palanyani back? How about hands? Or messages in chat? How about Seminary Tavira? Do you have something you'd like to share? She's off camera. She's now filling in tech support.
We have a further comment from Joseph.
Joseph, yes. Bhante Sukachito is back.
I wanted to, in honor of Ayya Khemā, I found this today at the store. I thought it would be appropriate to share with the Sangha.
Oh, thank you very much. Bhante Sukachito, do you have Ayya Palanyani there?
Good morning.
Welcome. I was introducing you already before to everyone, and then I
heard
didn't
of
see
it.
you for a moment. Welcome, warm welcome. I'm glad you can join.
Well, we're in the midst of breakfast, so I'm not really joining. I'm just sending greetings and hello, and happy to see you all. We celebrated here in Germany already several times at Buddha House and here at Anenja Vihara, but it was only live, so in person, no online event. So I don't have any material to share with you there. But Bhante shared with you the pictures that we do have, but it's not so much. maybe it's getting a little bit more all the time. And he's kindly holding his laptop for me because I'm standing just here in our Dana Sala. And as I understand, the program is coming to an end, more or less now, your program there. So we missed all the speakers and all the teaching that you were sharing there. But the spirit of Ayya Khema, I think, is already all over the world. Here it was very, very strongly felt. It was there, kind of very, very present in Buddha House. And we meditated in her room. And although there was a television with a Diya show and with some chanting going on, this was really the one room in which you could find the peace and the silence. There were in the Buddha House hundreds of people, and of course a lot of talking, a lot of connecting and program and so on. But when you entered Ayya Khema's dwelling, it was entering another world. It was silent, it was soft and smooth somehow. You could calm down and sit there and meditate. So this is the most important thing that I, in the midst of breakfast, can share with you.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much, Ayya. Thank you, Bhante, for sharing Ayya Palanyani with us. It's nice to see her. That's wonderful.
Thank you for this wonderful event.
Yes.
Mangalam. Bye to all of you. To
Bye.
Sangha,
Thank you.
Dhammadharini, and Lee. Best wishes. We should connect soon again. Bye-bye.
Let's check with those who are still with us. Venerable Jigwang, do you have anything else you would like to share? Venerable, oh, I'm trying to see. Who is he? Can you show the gallery view? I think there are those who have such big sharing hearts, and also they want to give others the opportunity. And let me see. Here, Karen, Cole, Wagner. Do you have something you would like to share?
I have to leave. I've got visitors, so
yeah?
very briefly, I want to.
Yes, please, Venerable. Sinim.
Hop back for a moment.
Sinim.
Yes, I have visitors, so I have to attend to them. But yes, so many wonderful reflections, and I have. It's reminded me of so much of my time with Ayya over many different situations. But as everyone has mentioned, and I too feel very much, though an incredibly strong personality, Ayya had such an enormous heart, an enormous capacity for her loving kindness, even though she often imparted it in a way that we didn't always find so palatable. Maybe we can say over time we recognized the depth of her tremendous wisdom and her tremendous kindness. But she became a friend. You know, I got to know her so very well, and as time went on, we shared many things between our very different lives as Bhikkhuni. She came to Korea, as I mentioned, and spent a little bit of time with me and visiting nuns, Bhikkhuni in the various monasteries. And I too heard more about her life as a nun at that time. She wasn't a Bhikkhuni then, but I got to know her as a nun. really one of the things I traveled, as I mentioned, with her and Prakantipala when they taught together. And she did teach very much from the heart and very much from loving kindness in those retreats. But she also had a very practical, which I think has been shared here today in particular, a very practical way to teach everyone individually in accordance with where their practice is at that time, at that moment, and for that person, you know. So when she did have cancer and she was revealing this, she was very practical about it. We're in the middle of a retreat. She's teaching. She's got many students who are relying on her wisdom and her strength at that time. And she never departed from that, even though her own body was telling her to pay attention here. So I learned, I think, from this strength. You know, I've had many teachers, very fortunate to have many teachers, and Ayya Tathālokā has met some of those. And so among, you know, really the lions of the den, she is a lioness of such great power and great strength. When you think of her, it's right there. When I was even putting the photographs together, I've got a lot and I just couldn't find them. They're on old computers, I think. But the few I had, I could put together. But it was like she was right here. You know, her strength and her power was present. So I want to thank you very much, Ayya, and your community of venerables and wonderful supporters. I know you must have many wonderful supporters and practitioners, lay and monastic, for, you know, bringing our attention to this very, very important occasion. It's very rare we have a celebration for the life of somebody who, in a way, is still living 100 years. So thank you, Ayya, and thank you to everyone who has joined us, and those of you who've spent your life dedicated in the embrace, you might say, and empowerment of Ayya Khema.
Sadhu, sadhu. I'd like to invite everyone here who is not in the image to come and join in a swarm together for just a moment, so you can see. You've only been able to see just a few of us here. Welcome. You're welcome to just come into swarm here, and then we'll share Ayya's brief Metta meditation from Ayya Khema and dedication of merit. Excuse me, not to come into the camera, actually. Yes.
Yes, Daniel
more
somehow.
and more coming in. No, come more. You're not into the camera. Yes. Then we're. And then there's Ranyabodhi Hermitage also they're on, and then also Ayya Sobhana is on, because she had a retreat program there in quarantine in the other part of the monastery, so on as well. So this is a few of us here, and I don't know if those at the Hermitage can show themselves or not, but I just wanted to share with you everybody here. At least in this particular room, in this monastery with more rooms. So you have a sense. And Ayya Sobhana, are you still there? I saw her just a moment ago, but she might have dropped off. I'd like to now invite our tech support. Let people thank you. Put your hands in Anjali. Tech support number 2 in Seminary Tavira. Thank you very much from everybody, especially for holding up the lamp even when Matthew departed. And now will you share with us the audio clip of the Metta meditation and dedication of merit for our closing of this time together? Thank you to everyone who has joined together. Thank you for this warm. I'm feeling everybody's love closely.
Please put the attention on the
Samanari
breath for
Chavira is
just a
saying,
few moments. Think of the
Official message
teaching
from Tech
that
Support.
you have received. Please put the attention on the breath
Let's see
for
what
just
happens.
Share sound.
a few moments. Think of the teaching that you have received as it has come from the Buddha and arouse gratitude.
Would you like to have our backup support, tech support number 2? It says screen sharing has stopped as the shared window is closed. Is it something that you could enable Venerable Gajayana to do?
I'm not online.
You could come on live.
All right. Well, I think maybe we can work on this. Maybe we sit in silence while the tech support is figuring it out.
Can you click OK on the screen? If you go into the document, you can click on the link.
Actually, from our winter retreat time, this is for me this particular part of the meditation and dedication of that is one that I remember. Oh my God.
What's that? Oh, Venerable Gajayana. It's okay. Venerable Gajayana is going on in track. We'll see.
Please put the attention on the breath for just a few moments.
Mute this one. Mute my mic. There.
Think of the teaching that you have received.
Okay.
Please.
Hang on. You're muted.
Put the attention on the breath for just a few moments. Think of the teaching that you have received as it has come from the Buddha and arouse gratitude and devotion in your heart to the highest truth and respect and reverence. See whether these feelings can arise in your heart as you think of the teaching and the great effort that the Buddha made to pass it on, so that even we today can receive it. Now think of your parents, whether they're still alive or not, and arouse gratitude in your heart for all they have taught you, devotion to them, and reverence for the things you know still today that they have implanted in you. Think of all the teachers you've ever had, whether it was in school, at university, on the spiritual path, wherever you've had teachers. Feel the gratitude for them. Let them know your devotion and reverence. Reach out to them. Now think of those people who are nearest and dearest to you. Undoubtedly, you have learned from them and through them. Express your gratitude to them. Your feeling of oneness. Your care for them. Let them feel it. Think of all your good friends who've undoubtedly helped you on your path through life. Let gratitude and devotion, sincerity of friendship arise in your heart. And let those feelings reach out to them. letting them know how you feel. And put your attention back on yourself and feel how gratitude, devotion, reverence and respect fills the heart with goodness. How you can feel the purity of those emotions and be at ease with them and happy. Let them fill you, surround you, embrace you. And anchor them in your heart so that you have them always accessible. You never need to search to find them. We share the merits that we have made in this meditation course with all our teachers. Whoever has taught us anything. With our parents, we share the merits with our loved ones, with our friends and our enemies. We share the merits with anyone who has helped to give us this space and time to be here at our ease and practice. We share the merits with all the devas who are present. Some of whom have also diligently practiced. We share the merits with each other, and we share them with anyone who may have benefit from them. May all beings be happy. May you all be very happy. I now officially end this meditation course. Noble silence is lifted, and may this course bring you peace and happiness for a long time to come.
Thank you. Sadhu, 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 anumodami. Well, for a moment I felt like I'm back in the meditation retreat again. Good to hear Ayya's voice and remember these noble thoughts. Oh, Ayya Sopana, I see you again now. Thank you very much for joining us, and to Dhammadharini Monastery for hosting during this time, and to Dhammadharini Support Foundation, all members, for all of your support for this to be possible, everyone who has contributed and offered everything here, this space and the equipment and the electricity, and most of all, the support for these monastic bodies, food, robes, everything that makes the space a place of practice and realization meaningful. And I want to especially appreciate those torchbearers, those pioneers, Ayya Khema, Ruth Dennison, so many others who are our teachers and benefactors, our Dhamma friends in so many ways, for all of the goodness that you bring and have brought to this life. May we make good with this. May the goodness we have gained not be lost, but increase together with all of the noble awakening factors for the dawning of insight, realization, noble penetration of vision and knowledge, the ending of ignorance, and the highest bliss and happiness of Nibbana. Idang no punyang asawakaya hotum. Idang no punyang magapalanyanasa hotum. Idang no punyang nibbana pachayo hotum. Sad, sad, sad. Now I can see the yurt at our Aranya Bodhi Hermitage as well, Venerable Dhammanusari. Please all welcome to join me, Venerable monastics here in Arahang, respecting the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha together. And we'll close. Please go ahead and can turn. If you're able to, I cannot turn. And then we can offer 3 bows to Ayya Khema's, towards Ayya Khema's picture and her memory as Acharya Puja, and think about sharing all the merits and virtues, whatever merit, goodness there's been in our gathering together, in our practice, the goodness in our lives, thinking about sharing that with her and blessing her. Welcome all for Arahang. Arahang
Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddha Bhagavanta Nabhivati
Uddhaminatum Sawakato
Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami
Uddhaminatum Supatipanno
Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅgho Sanghang Namami.
Sanghominatum Anumodana. Thank you very much to everyone near and far. Aranya Bodhi Hermitage, venerables, other side of Dhammadharini Monastery, Ayasopana, Seminary Satyamai in quarantine, venerables, all those venerable monastics, Dhamma teachers, Dhamma friends, community leaders who've gathered together online. I see a heart coming out of Lee's image there. To all, may we keep the goodness of this time and these recollections well alive into our hearts, unto Yawa Nibbana. We're seeing the chat now with us, Angeles, and something mysterious, and sunflowers and suns, and flower bouquets, and hearts with something else mysterious. What is that? Thank you for an inspirational program, says Sheila. Khema Siri, thank you. Modita, thank you for a beautiful presentation and blessings. Fountain of love. Joseph, wonderful. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Anumodami.